Okay, welcome to another episode of My Best 11 podcast. Today we are joined by a player who's played over 1,000 games. And when I was doing my research earlier, he's the 22nd player. He's the 22nd highest player to have played the number of games ever in the world of professional football. So managed to keep himself very, very fit. And he's played for a number of clubs, mostly up in the northwest of England, and he's gone on to manage a few clubs up in that region as well. But we'll get onto that in a bit. Today we are joined by Graham Alexander. Graham, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Great intro. Thank you very much. Make me sound half decent.
And talking of half decent, we also have a half decent Luton legend with us as well. As ever, my co-host Marv. How are you?
Hi, morning, Andrew. Good evening to you, Andrew, and good afternoon to you, Graham, Grez. Excited to have another ex-teammate of mine on, and a top player at that as well.
Definitely. I can't wait to hear how we were just talking off air, and he was saying he's got over 1,000 teammates he's had to try and pick. So any teammates out there who aren't in this team, please feel free to get in contact with Graham directly. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to have a chat. But what we'd like to do is we'll just launch straight in and we'll go. I know you've been managing recently, only obviously up to a few weeks ago. First thing we like to start with is formation, which would be quite intriguing to see if you go for your manager's formation or you've gone for something different to try and shoehorn 85 strikers in, like some of the people we've had on here.
No, yeah, it is actually the formation that I was just using just recently at Salford, but it's one that I had success in at Burnley as a player, playing in it, and it's I think when I'm thinking about the players I played with, trying to get a balance across the three areas, defensive side, the midfield, and the attacking. The 4-3-3 sort of lends itself to not overloaded with defenders, not overloaded with strikers, but a good balance of defence, midfield, and attack. Which was, even then, trying to squeeze players into it was difficult. But I think it's a good formation to defend well, press, and to attack.
Excellent. So we'll get straight in then. We'll start off as logical goes. We'll start off with goalkeeper. Now, those people who don't know too much about Graham, he's played for Scunthorpe, Luton, Preston twice, and Burnley, as well as 40 caps for Scotland, which is a fantastic achievement for any player to be capped by their country. So they're the types of teams we're looking for. So just to give people, as we go through as ever, have a guess, because Graham's going to give us a few clues for each position. But they're the teams you're looking out for and trying to get your mind thinking. Those people listening on the car or on the commute. So, goalkeeper, over to you, Graham.
Right, goalkeeper number one. Very important position. I think it's vital. I think not just as an individual, but I think it supports the players in front. Marv will tell you as an ex-defender and myself, I think when you've got a safe pair of hands and a good goalkeeper behind you, it actually adds on to your game as well and gives you strength and gives you confidence. And I was quite fortunate. I felt that I played with and in front of decent goalkeepers right throughout my time. And even when I go back to Luton, the goalkeeper I'm going to choose is from my time at Preston. But I have to give honourable mentions to Ian Foyer, who I thought was a fantastic goalkeeper when he came in at Luton, and Kelvin Davis. I thought, for the three and a half years that I played to play in front of those two goalkeepers, I think we had full confidence in both of those, behind us. Different characters, different personalities, but, top goalkeepers. I played in front of Craig Gordon for Scotland, who was an absolutely top goalkeeper. But the one I'm going to choose is one that I played with at Preston for 2 years. He came in from the Premier League and 6'3", 6'4", could kick the ball, could make brilliant saves.
I haven't got it.
Great personality for it. He actually, as a little clue, he was my goalkeeping coach in my last job at Salford. And the reason I'm picking him is because when he came in for the 2 years at Preston, we'd been under a bit of pressure for the previous couple of years and finished mid-table in the Championship. And we brought in a couple of players. He was one of them. And for the next 2 years, defensively, we were unbelievable as a team. And he still holds a record. I only found this out about a month ago, but I was part of a back four as well, but he holds the record, and it's still the record for the least amount of goals conceded in a Championship season.
Really? Andrew, you got it? Andrew? I haven't got it.
I wanted to guess Roy Carroll, but I don't think it is.
No, that didn't play. It's Carlo Nash.
Carlo Nash.
Yeah,
was he at City?
Yes, yeah, Man City. He's at Man City. He's been when he left Preston, he was number
Millwall?
2 at various Premier League clubs, but Everton, Stoke, Man City, I think before our time, Crystal Palace. So he was a top goalkeeper, and he was in the Championship playing for us for 2 years. He was a Premier League goalkeeper. You know what I mean? It was he had absolutely everything as a top goalkeeper should, and fantastic character and personality off it. Great lad. And that's when I got this job. He'd just left his previous one. I brought him in as the goalkeeping coach at Salford because I knew that the goalkeepers would progress under him and look up to him and see him for what he was. And he was a top goalkeeper.
What about with his feet? Was he good with his feet as well, Grez?
You know what? It wasn't. It was a different game. Obviously, now it's like they're basically the 11th outfield player. So that wasn't expecting, but he was good enough to be able to play back, you know, and you wouldn't be frightened and worried about it. And you know, he could play it long and but well and aim it, you know, and target certain areas. You know, when you look at the goalkeepers now, I don't think any goalkeepers from 15, 20 years ago play like they do now. You know, it was just.
I mean, Kelv wasn't bad though. Kelv wasn't bad with his feet. Kelv, Jelly.
Kelv sort of fancied himself as a bit of an outfield player as well, didn't he? You know, and thought he could probably do it better than us. So, you know, he's probably. I think that's probably why he went on to have the success he had at Southampton and his other clubs. You know, because I think he was ready for that sort of shift in football. You know, becoming into an 11th outfield player, and I think he was young when he got into the team at Luton and still. You know, open enough to expand his game and be able to use his feet. So, you know, I think it probably helped him get to the level he did and continue to play there. So, that would have helped. You know, but that was quite a rarity, I would have thought, Marvin, our time as players, having a goalkeeper that was so cool. Because it was just never expected of them, really, was it? You know, to be chipping over centre forwards' heads or, you know, stuff like that. It just never happened. And you certainly never got goalkeepers passing it to the centre half from a goal kick inside the box. As you see all the time now, you know, it does go on, but that was just unheard of back in when we played, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, how much has that changed, like you say, compared to when you were, in terms of the amount of training you spend for a goalkeeper? Obviously, you were playing as defender. Was a lot of it back when you were playing more about positions and the goalkeeper was kind of separate? I know when I used to play as a kid, it used to be kind of separate off, and then you used to kind of come in for game situations. But are they much more part of the, now obviously you've been manager, are they much more part of that?
Yeah, they are. They tended to go out probably half an hour before us and get all their technical work in, you know, with the goalkeeping coach. And then as soon as we got through our warm-up and maybe a little bit of possession, but even then, this season, we've actually brought them into our possession sessions as well, you know, and have them actually in the boxes or anything like that, because we wanted to use them as an 11th player. And, you know, the goalkeeper we had at Salford and is still there, obviously, was fantastic with his feet. It was one of the reasons we wanted to sign him. And honestly, you could put him in without gloves on and just a normal kit on, and you wouldn't notice the difference. Honestly, he's that comfortable on the ball. So we wanted to use that and utilise it. So, but we didn't want to separate him from all the sessions we did. So we wanted to get him in, A, to sort of get better at it, but B, to show the outfield players that this guy can play. You know, so they build that trust and say, well, he joins in, he never lets us down. So in the games, we'll go back and use him and then make the angles and build up the attacks again. So it's probably one of the biggest shifts. I remember me and Marv were still players when the back pass rule changed. Yeah. And you used to get a clap off the crowd when you have time wasting, like run back, get a back pass it back, and pick it up, and it'd be a little bit of applause. And go back at that. There's so much dead time in the game, and that changed a rule where they couldn't pick it up. It killed half the goalkeeping fraternity. Really. I mean, it really spooked them, a lot of them, and I think that was a big shift in it. But now, I think it's with the introduction of the the Guardiolas and the Klopps and that into the Premier League and using the goalkeepers as another player. I think it's just...
It's the rule change as well, hasn't it? The rules have changed. You can now take possession inside the penalty area. Yeah. That's the big one. Whereas you're never allowed to touch it till it went outside.
No, that's right. And I think that's for centre halves to get used to now. Because that was it really is. Honestly, there's players out there, centre halves, that are like, I'm not sure about that, and they're giving it, I'm dropping in, but don't give it me, sort of look.
Yeah. What look would you have given, Marv? You must have loved this if this would have been your time.
Oh yeah, I would.
You'd have loved it. Bring it on.
Yeah, I would. I mean, again, I think as Graham explained, I mean, in our time at Luton, I mean, one of the big things for us was playing. I mean, it wasn't that much like emphasised about, oh, we need to play this way, we need to do this, get the ball here. To be fair, Lennie, during our time, he just let us play, didn't he, Graham? He just let us play.
Yeah, I think that's it's one where I still have this issue with coaches, players, whatever it is, but there's a lot of the decision making has been taken away from the players. And I think, look, can you get on the ball? If you can get on the ball, great, because we want you to get on the ball. But if not, then you're not still going to receive it because that's how we play. That's the way I see things. You want to get on the ball. I was a defender. Mark's right. I think the time, when it came to Luton, it was a jump up for me in two levels, going from the old fourth division to the Championship. But Luton was renowned for how they played, and they had ball-centric players playing at the back. And Marv was one who was comfortable on the ball. Steve, when he obviously joined at the same time as me, Mitchell, people like that they would take the ball. So it was okay. It was comfortable, and I think Luton, if we had gone to what it is now, I think we'd have been comfortable with it. To go like that, we'd have gone, yeah, we can handle the ball, we can take the ball. So I think we would have been one of the clubs that would have been okay with how the game is now, to be fair. But it's a big shift, and I think it's a good one, to be honest, because I don't see any reason why. There's a lot of goalkeepers, I think, they probably started out as a centre forward at the age of 9 or something, or midfield at 13, and then gradually. So they've all got some sort of ball skills, and I think it's certainly added to the game, to be honest.
Oh yeah, definitely. Excellent. So moving on to right back or left back, whichever one you prefer. And obviously you can pick yourself.
Yeah, no one's picked themselves yet, though. But listen, with all the appearances you've had, I mean, no one would argue with that, to be honest.
Right, hold on, mate. I'm just going to make a change. This player was unbelievable, by the way. So,
and he's captain as well.
yeah. So honestly, I didn't even cross my mind about putting myself in. So I'm not gonna. I'm gonna go right to left. Traditional 1, 2, 3, and all that sort of thing. So, look, 100%, you will not know this player.
This is what I like, a challenge. I like this. This.
He was a fullback at my first club, Scunthorpe. He played there for 10 years. When I joined, he'd probably been there about maybe 5 years already. And he's probably the first player when I joined the professional ranks that I looked up to as a player in the same position. I saw how he trained. I saw how he went about his business. I saw the ability that he could have in the game, and he was one that you could actually approach and talk to. And Marv will tell you, you know, back then in the 80s, you know, there was a sizable gap between apprentices and pros, and basically you try to stay out of their way as much as possible. And any that were approachable, or you know, said kind words to you, or anything like that, or even communicated with you in a positive way, you became attached to them and you wanted to listen to them. And this guy for me was all that for me. And then when I broke through into the first team, maybe 18 months, 2 years into my time there, you know, he lived local, I lived in Scunthorpe, and we actually used to go out for a beer every now and then. Well, probably twice a week, you know, it was back then. But he was just he didn't reach, you know, great heights in the game, you know, as in the levels and everything, but the qualities of consistency. He could play with both feet. He was tough. He trained every single day. He loved the social side with the players. He was just like a player's player. That's how I'd say it.
Right.
Yeah, well, yeah, where we'd talk about other players, all the players would talk about this guy, you know, because of how he was in the change room, on the pitch, in training, and that for me was a great sort of introduction to, if I'm going to be a pro, if I'm going to make it to be a pro, I want to sort of follow his way, because he was good on the pitch, good in the change room, good in training. And
I'm still struggling, but like, did he stay there his whole career?
Yeah, he actually retired at Scunthorpe because he broke his leg. He broke his leg and was out for a considerable amount of time, and he found it tough to get back after that. And I think he got offered a job within the club and sort of saw it as that way. But honestly, you won't know him. It's a lad called Paul Longdon. I think he was a Barnsley lad. I think Scunthorpe signed him from Barnsley. But he was one of those old school players that his shin pads were about so you know, like that, tiny. You know, nothing in there. Basically, yeah, I've got my pads. It was just to get past the rule that you had to wear pads. And he just went in for every single tackle. Never shirked anything. Could go on his left foot, right foot. He was only probably 5'9", something like that. But I just used to. I loved being around him as an apprentice, but I loved watching him and how he trained and everything like that. And I just thought he was a great sort of role model for a young player to go to.
Who would you sort of like compare him to now? Which someone who I might know, how he played, like sort of thing, Gres? Would you say?
It's like do you know what it was like? It was like you know, Mitch was, well, he played a lot of left back, even though he was right foot. Right. Mitch was the same, wasn't he? You know, he was right footed, but yeah, played left back, and I did the same when I played the majority of my games for Scotland at left wing back. You know, and it's something that I was always quite comfortable, you know, playing with my left foot as well and right foot, even though I was mainly right footed. And I always used to like those players that could just play off either foot and just, you know, just be a player's player. And that's what he was really. And I thought, you know, if you look at him statue-wise, probably like, I don't know, I'm trying to think really, because he was, I think everyone would describe him probably, who just watched him play, as a steady Eddie.
Right.
But for me, he was more than that. Do you know what I mean? Because his consistency was brilliant. His fitness was great. He loved to drink with the lads. You know, it was just an old school player. You know what I mean?
A bit more like a Seamus Coleman these days, or something like that.
Yeah, probably, something like that. Yeah, because
not necessarily known for bombing on, but a likable character.
Yeah, I think look, the fullbacks in the fourth division in the late 80s, I wouldn't say bombed on and overlapped. It wasn't that sort of game. It was basically up and support and cross into the box and stuff like that. But he never scored. That was another thing. The only thing that you know, for 10 years, it was
really?
like, it was a big thing. Like that he'd never scored. Like, but he just did his job. And I know it's not like I'm looking at a world star and going, oh, that's what I aspire to be. But he was just he was just real and proper. And
that's the beauty of it. It's your team. You pick who you want. That's why it's great to hear it. It's your team.
Yeah, that was it. You know, there'd be other stars in the team. You know, I remember my first season in the first team. We got to the playoff final, and at Wembley against Blackpool, and it went to penalties, and he was, I think he was either first or second, and I just remember it, he went up, and we were actually going, which foot is he going to take it with? Do you know what I mean? You know, we were like, we'd never seen him in practice or anything like that, so he just went up, side foot it in, and he walked back to the halfway line, and he went, piece of piss. It was just like, it was just him all over, you know what I mean? He just walked back from at Wembley player final and just said that was the only 3 words he said when he came back. And it was like, but the thing was, I was the 4th penalty taker, and I walked up and I missed, and the keeper saved it. And so I'm like, I'm walking up going, oh, Longy says it's easy. You know what I mean? Thinking, oh, this is going to be great. I'm 19, I'm going to score at Wembley and all this stuff. And unfortunately for me, the keeper saved it, and we didn't get promoted. We lost them. My roommate, my best mate, was next up, and he missed as well, and we didn't go up. But I just, that was him. If you see him walking up, it's like, yeah, I'm going to take a penalty. Walked up, put it in there, walk back. It was that sort of understated quality that I loved about him. So it's the Scunthorpe fans will remember it.
Great.
So move on to left back then.
Yeah, left backs. There was a difficult one. You know, obviously Mitch was quality when I would come down to Luton, you know, and played at a real high level. And then, I listened to Steve's podcast. You know, he said he obviously played with him at Burnley as well, and he played at centre half, which, you know, he cruised through it. To be honest, you know, he was so good. But you know, he was a top left back, but it comes down to me between 2 lads that I've played with at Preston, and I've had a couple of times when I've had to speak about teams, and this is my most difficult choice between these 2, because I'm really good mates with both of them. I've roomed to them both. I still speak to them both. It's like I lived 2 doors down the road from one of them for 6 years until he left, and we were best mates. And then the other one joined and became real good mates with him, and still am. But one was Rob Edwards, who was, and I'm going to choose another player instead, because when I joined Preston, and then Rob joined Preston a couple of months later, we both were the fullbacks, but both our previous seasons, apart from my last year at Luton, we'd been midfielders, but all our play at Preston went for us, sort of thing. So, but we weren't dyed-in-the-wall fullbacks, you know, that had played hundreds of games. We were more modified fullbacks, sort of thing. So, but so I'm going to go for another left back who came in after him, who was a genuine left back, played all his career at left back, Scottish international, played in the Premier League for 1-2 club, Blackburn and Leicester.
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
Previous to come to Preston, he played. I'm really jealous of the fact that he played in the team for Scotland that beat England at Wembley in '99, 1-0. He played left back in that game.
Was that bloody game? I can't think of it.
Yeah, right. He didn't play. He came in for the second game, which obviously Scotland won. He's currently a manager in the SPL for St Johnstone in his first role as manager, and he was recently assistant to Gary Rowett at Millwall until he went up to there. So
as soon as you say it, I know. I mean, I can't think of his name, but I know who you're talking. I can see him. I can see his face, but I can't think. Andrew?
Yeah, I played with him at Preston and with Scotland. So it's Callum Davidson.
That's the one. Yeah. When you said Blackburn, I could see his face.
Yeah. Played for Blackburn in the Premier League, and then Leicester in the Premier League as well. And to be fair, if it weren't for injuries, he probably wouldn't have come down to Preston in the Championship, because he was a proper, loved one-on-one defending, very difficult to get past, quick, strong, but he was a modern fullback, as he would bomb on, you know, and get beyond wingers and get crosses in, and you know, and great lad, great trainer. He was just so unfortunate with injuries. That, you know, I remember, you know, he got his way back into the Scotland squad while I was involved, and it was brilliant to have him with me because I was playing with him regular at Preston, and he'd come back from a lot, and then he got injured in his, I'm sure it was the first 20 minutes of his first game back as well, and it was just constant with him. He did everything as a professional should to not do it, but unfortunately his body let him down for a few times. But he was a brilliant left back, proper left back. What I've gone for with these two fullbacks are they love defending 1v1. Yeah, they were hard to get past. You know what I mean? Yep. But they could handle the ball and play with the ball. And I think fullbacks, since probably quite a few years ago, but I think they've become almost like playmakers as well now. You know, and certainly when I went to Preston, you know, I had my last year at Luton at fullback, and it's because they got load of the ball. I wanted to load the ball really, so it was. You know, I'll be honest. I wasn't really that massive on defending. You know what I mean? I didn't go there because I loved one-on-one defending and stopping crosses. I went there because I thought they got the ball more than anybody else. You know, and started the attacks. So these two players could certainly do that. But Callum's a great guy. I still speak to him now. He's agent since Johnston, in his first role as a number one manager. So. Yeah. Well,
we've spoke about this about someone else who read on the other day. I don't want to reveal his name because obviously depending obviously when we're going to release it. Yeah. But I've played obviously at fullback, and I mean I wouldn't say I was like poor at one-on-one defense. I was okay, but my best form of defense was attack. So I used to just like get forward and join in as much as possible because, like I said, I mean. At the end of the day, if you're attacking as a fullback, and then you obviously being a manager yourself, you wouldn't want your wide right person just standing up the field while I'm joining in, creating attacks. So, I mean,
no, I think I'll be honest. When I went to Preston, you know, because like I said, I played my last year at Luton at fullback because I thought that was my best opportunity to play at a high level. I didn't think I was ever going to play at a high level playing at right midfield. Because I had no pace, I couldn't take people on. I could do a good job there for a team at a certain level, but I was never going to go higher than League One. I knew that, you know what I mean, and I was determined to try and get to a high level. And I thought fullback was my best position, but it wasn't. It was for what you said, Matt, because I thought my best attributes were on the ball, passing, and stuff like that. So I think certainly when I went to Preston. David Moyes just spent hours and hours and hours and a couple of years just making me defend. I think he actually put up with me rather than actually love me being there because he knew what I could give to the team on the ball rather than what he could do defending. You know, if it was just down to defending, he wouldn't have played me there and he wouldn't have signed me. I know it. Yeah. You know, because but that was part of when he signed me that he told me how poor he thought I was at defending. See what I mean? He didn't hide it. You know what I mean? But I knew myself to get to a high level, I had to improve that side of the game. So it was perfect for me. But
didn't that show what I mean? I think he's a good manager. That he's told you this, but still he didn't turn around and think, oh, I'm not going to sign him because obviously he can't defend. I can make him a better defender. He was thinking that.
Yeah, he signed me for what I could do for the team on the ball. That's what he could see that. He said, but for him to play for me, I have to improve this side of him. But he told me that before I signed. So he didn't like sweet talk me into, you're this, you're that. He said, look, you're good on the ball, but I'll tell you what you don't do well. You're lazy in your defending. You dive in. Yeah, you don't, all this lot. And I was going pretty accurate at that.
And at least it shows he's done his research.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think they watched me more times than I actually played. So you know, it was. I know they'd done a lot of scouting on me that season from when I signed. But he basically knew my game inside out, and he knew all my weak points. But you know, I was 27. I'd only played one season above the bottom two divisions, and I knew I wasn't finished. I knew there was reasons why I wasn't playing at that level.
Yeah.
So I had to fill in the gaps, and I thought David Moyes was going to help me do that. And that's why I went there. But certainly it was a harsh lesson for the first 2 years I was there in how to defend properly. But I like I said, with Rob Edwards, who played on the left side, he played the previous. I think that was his first time he'd ever played left back for Preston. So we were both quite similar. We were converted midfielders to fullbacks, but because that's how he wanted his team to play. He wanted it all out through the fullbacks and playing, from the back really, not but he liked his traditional centre halves that could dominate the area and defend the box. So I think to get that at League One level, the playing side and the dominant centre halves, you're probably not going to get at League One. So he went, I'll go strong down the middle and I'll have my ball players on the side, and it worked. It worked great for North End, and it worked out great for me, to be fair.
Awesome. So centre backs, who have you gone for as centre backs? Either or.
Right. I mean, this is the hardest one because, look, taking away our current leader in Marvin Johnson, you know what I mean? But do you know what? When I came to, when I was Scunthorpe, I played. We're talking the old 4th division, and there was some gnarly old centre halves there that were, proper, just warriors basically. You know what I mean? It was, and they were great. But we signed lad Matt Elliott from Torquay, who went on to play for Leicester and Scotland. And I think we got him on. I don't know how we got him. I think he got into trouble at Torquay, but he signed. And it was just like, how are you in Division 4? He was like, it was just frightening. I mean, he could play. He was like Steve Davis, but like 3 inches taller. You know what I mean? And but playing at a lower level, he cruised it. He was a fag on. So I played with him there. I came to Luton. Obviously, Marv was there. A big one for me, being a Coventry lad, was Peaky. Trevor Peake being there. I remember walking. Because it was only 8 years since I was at school. Supporting Coventry, winning the FA Cup in '87, which Peaky played in. And I walked into the change room and I was like, "Oh, there's Trevor Peake. That's Trevor Peake." and I was 23. I wasn't like a kid. I was 23, but I was like, and looking at it out of the corner of my eye, that's Peaky. That is last. And it was like, because he's a legend in Coventry. So I was like, you know what I mean? So I was really in awe of Peaky, to be fair. And he was, I think he was in his late 30s, probably, 38, coming towards the end. But great lad, as Marv knows him better than me, but we played with Marv the whole time I was there, 3.5 years. Superb, Luton players, who could handle the ball, play, step out, and that's. I think that's what Luton saw in me when they signed me. That I was in the 4th division, I could pass, and I think Luton always had a way of playing, didn't they? And an identity of a player.
Put the ball on the deck. Yeah.
Yeah, and. So though Marv and Peaky were good players who were played next to or in front of. When I went to Preston, there was a lad called Michael Jackson, who's manager at Tranmere now, who was 5'11" most, unbelievable sort of warrior, competitor, great pro. I learned a lot off him, even though I was older than him. When I joined Preston, I thought that's how a pro really trains and works hard and comes out. I was like, I'm miles behind him as a pro. Do you know what I mean? As a professional, I was like, and I learned so much off him. And then when I went to Burnley, played with Clark Carlisle, who had an awesome season at Burnley when we got promoted. But I've gone for 2 lads, different types, and I'll get on to the second one after. I'll go with the first one, who's going to play on the right hand side next to me, if I was playing, but I'm not obviously. But if I was playing, the one I actually liked playing next to the most when I was a right back was a lad who's really close to me. He's been working with me up until last week. He's my assistant at the 3 clubs I've managed. He joined Preston probably 1.5 years after I did. I played next to him for 6 years. I still call him Skip. You know what I mean? After all these years, quiet leader, not a big baller and shouter, but if you go
But Andrew,
not yet. No,
I know. I can obviously. I know.
Yeah.
I know him. So obviously,
yeah,
I'm not the same.
he's got the. It's a weird thing. Like I only found this out like a couple of years ago, but he's got the record for the oldest English debutant in the Premier League. I've got the record for the oldest, but because I'm counted as Scottish because I played for Scotland, I'm the official oldest ever debutant in Premier League. And
Yeah,
I was going to say that.
He's the oldest English debutant in the Premier League. His career sort of mirrored mine. He played we both started in the old fourth division. I was at Scunthorpe. He was at Rochdale and Halifax. Gradually fought our way up. He was actually when we went close to promotion, Marvin, in the second year of League One, and we got beat by Stockport and Bury, didn't they? They finished top. He was playing at Bury at the time. He was one of their centre halves there. And he came to Preston, played with him for 6 years. He moved on to Sheffield United and then went into the Premier League. He's been my assistant.
It's Chris. Well, I mean, because I don't think Andrew's going to get it.
No.
Chris Licchetti.
Yeah.
He's what I loved about playing for it. I gradually became a better defender as a fullback. I could always handle the ball. What I was always crap at was heading. Terrible. Weren't great. Couldn't compete. I could direct header, but I couldn't compete. I don't know if it was I had no power in my legs to jump or anything, but so I loved centre halves that I just went, yeah, you're coming for that, and he loved doing that. It was like everyone get out of my way. I am coming to head this ball wherever it is within a 20-yard radius, and
you're calling for him. That's Chris's.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm telling you, Andrew. Honestly, I swear. Goal kicks, I'd be saying, Skip, this is yours. And I would just, like, honestly, I'd just go back off. And I either, sometimes centre forwards would pull onto me and I'd just hold them off, a little bit of blocking and that, and he'd just come, and he could edit back out for a goal kick, basically. He was like, I mean, probably one of the hardest men I've ever played with. I remember and then so I can say this on a podcast, can't I? It was like we played West Ham away, and this was at Preston, and we beat them 2-1. And during the game, remember Marlon Harewood, centre forward.
Yeah,
he was one of the other players, a winger called Chris Edgeworth. He was really good with his mouth and could chirp away and get under people's skin. And he got under his skin a little bit and all this lot, but he weren't a fighter, Sedgy. He was like, it was all in his mouth. Anyway, at the end of the game, we beat them 2-1, and we go to the supporters, we're walking back towards the tunnel. And as we're walking towards it, the lad's gone, oh, no, Marlon Harewood's waiting for me. Like, and you could see Marlon Harewood stood just inside the tunnel at Upton Park, just waiting. So, like, this lad's just sort of done a little moonwalk back into the group of the players, out of the way. And Chris Licchetti was the captain that, and just everyone in together, walking together. So we all walked in. He was it. He just didn't say anything. It was just, and it just got down. And like at West Ham, you used to go down the stairs and then up the stairs to the top, and like everyone just piled down the stairs, and then they all came running out, and it was just. But it was like that was him. It weren't like, listen, calm down, mate. It wasn't, listen, leave him alone. It weren't like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I'm sorting this out straight away. And it was like, wow. But he didn't, weren't in the bar afterwards or on the bus. Oh, did you see that? Did you see that? Just sat there. No. He's not that type of character, like that. Come on, let's go. Just led by
example. Like you just saying there, Marlon Harewood wasn't like standing there waiting to swap shirts, was he? That's what Chris worked. He worked that. So at the end of the day, he's standing there for something.
Yeah, 100%. He was like that, and you could tell by his stance this was what was going on, and all this sort. So, but look, that's stuff that used to go on back in the day. But as a player, it was just like, you'd be going out at the front, and you're like, you just nodding your head, going, yeah, we're ready for anything, like, and that's what he was, and he was just a brilliant lad off the pitch, great, even the players that we manage now call him Skip. They've never played with him or anything, because I call him Skip. That's it. That's him. And what I loved about him was, it was just, I knew exactly what he was going to do, and I knew what his strengths were. He knew what mine were, and we complemented each other really well. And that's how, and he had a brilliant career. Getting to the, I was 37, I think, when I made my debut in the Premier League. He was 35 and a half. So we both worked exceptionally hard and stuck in there, to go through. And I think his mentality and focus on it is really good. And as an assistant for me, he's brilliant, because if I ask him a question, he tells me the truth. If I say, was I a bit over the top there? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I think you could have been tougher, or you could have done this, or you should have done that. But if I make the decision, he's 100% behind me and backs me. You know what I mean? It's
great.
Just a proper bloke, and it's one of them where, as a player, we played together for 6 years. I wouldn't say that close. We didn't go for a pint after just me and him. It was more on the team. But I brought him in as assistant when I went into coaching at Preston, and we've just got to know each other even better off the pitch, since then. And just a top guy.
Great, fantastic.
Sounds like the type of captain you want behind you as well.
Yeah, look, I've got 3 players, I think, in this team that are captains, and if there's one word to describe them, you'd say captain. That's it, and that's we'll get on to the next one next.
We'll keep moving then.
Yeah.
Centre back, other centre back.
The other centre back. Now, I've put him on the left side because, as a fullback, I wanted the ball, right? So I hated centre halves that loved the ball as well, because they didn't give it to the fullback. So I've put him over there because he would have the ball. I know Chris Leketti would get the ball and give it to me and go get on with it. But this player loved playing with the ball, would step out. People still call him. When I played with him, and I joined Luton on the same day as him. Didn't know him before that, but we were in the same hotel. Got to know each other really well. And we lived near each other for the next 3.5 years. But I played with him at Luton the whole time he was at Luton. He left about a couple of months before me. When I left Luton, but when I eventually signed for Burnley 8 years later, he was a coach there, and I walked in and then speaking to the players, and they all called him Skip. And it was like, I've just been calling someone else Skip. I can't call him Skip as well, because I already knew him by his name. Well, you know what I mean? So I'm sure, I know Marvel.
I think everyone knows it's Steve. Yeah, I think everyone knows it's Steve.
Yeah. Steve Davis. That he was great in the air, brilliant on the ball, could score goals. But if the ball come in your box, he was going to go and head it, and he was going to block, and he was going to make tackles. Probably similar to Chris Leketti in quiet people off the pitch, unassuming, not big shouters in the change room. I didn't feel, which I actually quite liked, because I like leaders who are sure and calm and not, I think there's a place for the scrap, the shouters and the screamers in change rooms. I like it when I was in a change room that you could hear that. I wasn't one myself that liked to do that, but I liked to hear there was an atmosphere and stuff like that. But these 2 guys weren't really like that. But like I said, with Chris Leketti, I think when Steve was leading you out, you'd be nodding your head behind him going, there's a bloke there leading us out into whatever we're going to face next. And but I have purposely put him on the left, because I didn't, until my last season at Luton, I was playing in midfield, and out on the wing. So it was, but when I went to right back, and I went back right back for a certain reason, if he had the ball, he would just go on for Maisie through the middle of the pitch. And I'm like, no, give me the ball. And he'd be like, no, I'm going off with it. You know what I mean, Marv? And do you know what I mean? To be fair, you know what I mean, with you, with Mitch, with me, with Steve, we could all handle the ball at the back, weren't it? So it weren't like we'd just shift it onto the other one. You deal with it. It's all we all wanted the ball ourselves. You know what I mean? So, and that's what I found with Steve. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, no, I want the ball, but he's just as good on it. You know what I mean? And just going off, and he was brilliant though. You know, I've become great mates with him. Like, he lived in my house for a few months while he was waiting for his place. My wives got to know each other really well. And then when I actually, you know, he left, I think he left 2 months before me to go back to Burnley. And, you know, I was leaving Luton a couple of months later, and I actually went and spoke to Burnley at the same time, because I think Steve had spoke to Stan Turnant about my abilities or qualities or whatever. And it was a big pull for me to go to Burnley because of Steve, really, because I thought, well, I'll be playing with, I've got a ready-made best mate there, and I'll be playing with a good player. And he sold me what Burnley was as a club, and which I found out later in my career was all true. But like the reason I said before, I joined Preston because of David Moyes and what he said to me. And I didn't want to go to Burnley because I've got a really good mate there and I'll enjoy myself. I wanted to go to a club because I wanted to get higher and play. I wanted to improve. And I felt the best opportunity of doing that was going to Preston. So, you know, I turned them down, obviously. But, you know, obviously I was 20 miles down the road from Steve. So we continued to see each other now and then and play against each other and everything. And then, you know, 8 years later, when, you know, he was a coach at Burnley, he rang me up out of the blue and, would you fancy coming to Burnley if we can do it and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, it was a bolt out of the blue because I never envisaged leaving Preston at the time. But then obviously I joined Burnley and Steve was first team coach, and it was brilliant, you know, because it was just, I could see how good he was on that side of the line as well. You know, I'd only seen him and known him as a player, and then to see him on the coaching side and how he got on with the players and how he communicated things, it was brilliant. And then, you know, one of the proudest sort of moments I had at Burnley before the success that we had later was, unfortunately, the manager who signed me, Steve Cottrell, lost his job, and Steve took over for one game. And I'm sure it was Leicester away. I hope I'm not wrong. And, you know, it was a big day for Steve. And I think I was captain on the day as well. And we won 1-0. And honestly, I was so happy for him that, you know, because it was his club, Burnley, you know, and such a big thing. And I know now as a manager how big that chance would have been, or that opportunity just to manage his club for one game. And we won it. And it was, you know, and I was captain as well. It was just, I was like, honestly, I was just hugging him afterwards, like, I was buzzing for him, like, you know, it's because I was just like, so pleased for him, you know what I mean? Because I knew what he never did. He never said how much it meant to him, because that was Steve. You know, he never talked about himself or anything like that. It was all about whatever. But I knew what that moment would have meant to him, and it was brilliant. Like, and you know, and then even then when I became a manager, I spoke to Steve numerous times, and I eventually brought him in as my head of recruitment at Fleetwood, which. He was fantastic. You know, he was out of coaching at the time. I think he'd had a tough time at a couple of clubs and at Bolton and stuff. And I knew he knew football. He knows football inside out, doesn't he? He knows players and everything. Yeah. And then, you know, fortunately we brought him in as the head of recruitment, and he did a brilliant job there. And obviously I moved on, but he stayed there, and then he's moved on to Everton. You know, and brilliant, absolute, you know. Football man through and through.
I mean, we're touching it a little bit on it later on, but at what point, Grez, did you actually think that, I mean, you wanted to be a manager? Was it during your playing career, or was it way before, whenever?
It wasn't the managing side. It was coaching, 100%. You know, when I got to about the age of 30, 31, and obviously, you know, when you hit your 30s, everyone's writing you off straight away, Marv. It's like, oh, you know, pensions around the corner and all that sort of stuff. And so I was thinking, yeah, I better start thinking about that. And you know what I mean? I just love football. All I want to do is football. So, right, I'm going to start my qualifications. And, you know, but because I played so long until I was 40, I was fully qualified by the time I finished with pro license and everything. But my initial sort of ambition was to be a coach. I want to be out on the training pit, and I still feel like that now. I think if someone told me, right, for the next 20 years you're going to be a coach working professional football, I would be happy with that. I'd be content with that, because that's the joy I get from managing, is being out on the training pitch now. But the management sort of came after. Well, it was a similar situation to Steve actually. Phil Brown got the sack at Preston in my last year, and they asked me and David Unsworth to look after the team for a couple of games, and I got the bug in that. You know, we won our first game, Milton Keynes away, 1-0, and it was a bit like Steve at that Leicester game, and I was like, and the feeling was like, wow, that was good.
Yeah.
You know, and then it just grew from that, really. Before that, I was just thinking about coaching, but then I got thrust into that role just for a month. It turned out to be, and I was like, no, I think I can do that, and actually, it took me out of my comfort zone completely, and I quite like that feeling.
So you just on the same topic, you just obviously left Salford. What are you looking to do now? Are you looking to have a few weeks off, get back into management, or are you wanting to get back into coaching? Get back on a training ground?
Yeah, the training ground is where, you know, that's it. That's your day. That's why I love playing, because I love training. You know what I mean? I love training. I hated missing training or anything like that. I just love being out on that training pitch. You know, you're basically a kid every day. You're out, you know, you are though. You know, I've said this before, you know, people ask me, you know, when I was playing till I was 40, you know, how are you still playing? I'm thinking, why not? You know, when you're 10 years old,
because I can. That's why.
Yeah, because you can. But when you're 10 years old, what do you want to do? You want to go out and play football with your mates. Well, I did that until I was 40. I was like,
yeah.
That's how I felt. That's how I genuinely felt. You know, I weren't one of these players that, you know, I hear a lot of players and they go, yeah, I miss this, but I don't miss that. I don't miss the training. I did. I loved it. You know what I mean? So I think for me now going forward, I want to get back into management. Of course, I think I've been successful in the 3 clubs I've managed. I've had success at all 3 clubs, I want it. But unfortunately, in this job, you're waiting on the demise or the unfortunate circumstances of somebody else, and that's what this job is really. It's but yeah, look, I know, you know, over the last 8 years that I've managed 3 clubs. I've had success at all 3 clubs, and I want to continue doing that, and I want to do what I did in my playing career. You know, work my way up through the levels and try and get to the highest level I can. It's it's the same sport, but it's a completely different job, playing and managing. It's a different world altogether. You know, your playing career, you basically spend 20 years thinking about yourself, and then your managing career, you think about everybody else but yourself, and it's just completely night and day. You know, it's black and white. It's completely different. But I love that because, you know, by the time I finished, you know, obviously I was an old player. You know, I'd seen, done everything. Now, as soon as you retire and go into management, you're young again. You're starting at the bottom again. You're a novice. Everything's new and unique, and I think that gives you a good energy and stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm looking to get back in as good a club as I can possibly.
Awesome, excellent. Well, thanks very much for that. What we'll do is we'll pause there, and we'll go for a couple of words from our sponsor, and then when we're back, we'll hear from the midfield and the forwards for Graham Alexander.
Thank you for listening to My Best 11 Pod. We are currently accepting applications for advertisement and sponsorships. You can reach us at My Best 11 Pod or mybest11pod@gmail.com. Thank you.
Excellent. So we're back for part 2 for Graham Alexander's My Best 11. So far we have Carlo Nash, Paul Longdon, Callum Davidson, Chris Lucchetti and Steve Davis. So we're now moving on to his 3 midfielders. Take it away, Graham, in whichever order you want to.
Yeah. Well, I'll sort of go along the same line. I'll go with the holding midfield player playing in front of the back 4. It's the role I eventually sort of extended my career with going to, really. You know, talking about I've talked in the past about being a fullback and the defensive side had to work a lot on. And then when I went to Burnley, it was weird because I signed for Steve Cottrell, and I played the previous 9 seasons at fullback virtually every game. I think there was maybe 1 or 2 at Preston where I played in a different position, but basically fullback all the way through. Spoke to Steve Cottrell at Burnley for a good couple of days, just about playing, what the club wanted to do, this, that, the other. And then the minute I signed on the contract, he just pulled me to the side. He said, by the way, I'm going to play you in centre midfield. I was like, what? I was like, what did you tell me? I didn't know if you'd sign or not. I was like, he goes, no. I just want to play. If I'm in the team, I'm happy. You know what I mean? And he goes, I just feel with your experience and where you are at this stage, UK, I think playing it in midfield would be good for you, and it'd be good for your team, for our team, you know, with what you had. And honestly, I probably played half a season at Scunthorpe at central midfield and a bit at Luton, but more of on the right of a 3. And I hadn't played as a genuine central midfield player for probably most of my career. And but I actually loved it. It was like I just said about the management side, giving a new lease of life. I actually felt, right, well, this is different. Right, how do I adapt to this? How, you know, it's a different game. You know what it is, Marv. When you're playing at the back, everything's in front of you, and it's quite. You've got a lot of time because everything's. You can see everything, and then you're suddenly plonked in midfield where everything's around you, and it's like, you know. And I did get caught out quite a lot at the start, you know, from people nicking the ball off me back because I'm sitting there going, "Where's my pass? Where's my pass?" But bang, tackled, gone. So that gave me a new impetus to try and sort of, you know, reinvent myself, sort of thing. But and I went back to right back for injury after that. But then when later on Owen Cole came in, and I went back as a genuine holding midfield player in front of that. And it was just, I saw how important that was for a team, you know, both in playing side and defensively. But so that's why I've gone for this shape. And, you know, if I go back to Luton, one of the biggest influences on me in my first year there was Gary Waddock. I think he saw me as a young player who'd come out from the lower leagues, you know, trying to fight my way into the team and everything like that. And he was very good with advice and the right word at the right time to give me encouragement and stuff like that. And you know, I've come across against him in our managerial days a few times as well. So that type sort of thing was good. And I played with a lad, Brian O'Neill, at Preston, who came from, he's Scottish, but he'd been in Germany, and he was just, you could see he played abroad. You know, he was so calm on the ball. He used his body to protect it and everything. Good defensively, we could get on the ball. He was super. But the one I'm going to go for is the third one of that triangle of captains. He was the captain when I joined Preston North End. And he was a captain when we won the league, when we got to the player final in the championship the year after. I played against him at Luton when he was at Darlington, and then went at Preston as well. Sometime, and I thought this about him. Was
he a centre half?
He played at half as well. Yeah, he played at centre half as well. So he played at centre half in his younger days, and I think he went to Preston. They converted him into midfield player. And then when he finished, I think he went back to centre half. But I knew him when I joined Preston as a central midfield player. He was the captain. He was I did him a great disservice when I played against him previous to joining Preston, where I thought he was just a thug. I thought he was a big thug that went around booting people.
You got it, yeah.
Kicking off, just, you know, the way he used to bowl around the pitch, you know, like this. And I thought he was like that. But when I joined Preston, he was a miles better player than I gave him credit for before. You know, he could actually pass the ball. But I think he knew his role for the team was to destroy, to compete and all this. So sometimes he just concentrated on that. But actually when we moved up, when we went into the championship and we had to play a bit more, he was at home there. And then eventually he went to, I think West Brom signed him for a couple of million. He played in the Premier League with them in central midfield and that. And you know, he was he was a love him or hate him type character. There was a lot of people that hated him outside of the club he played for, and sometimes inside, because he was so. But he was one of those players that was just straight in your face, brutally honest. You're crap. You better get your ass into gear. And this, that, and the other. He probably got sent off from training under David Moyes probably 4 or 5 times in the time that we were there, because he would just. He was a funny guy, like, you know. He was just full of life. He was aggressive, in your face. But he was like that in training, and sometimes we signed a couple of players that were sort of competitors for him. So he just booted them all over the park, you know, in training. And he's like, I'm the boss here. I'm the man. You know what I mean? You're going to have to get past me. And a couple of times, like, you know, David Moyes sent him off from training because it crossed the line a little bit. Right. I remember him, but even then when he's walking off the pitch, he's booting balls off the pitch and, you know, one of them type of guys. But the next day, Moyes would forget about it. He'd be in the team on the Saturday. He'd be leading the team. He'd be, you know, he sort of knew what sort of character he was, gave him a bit of leeway without letting him get too loose. Right. But he knew on Saturday, that's my man.
Sean Gregan.
Sean Gregan, mate. Yeah, he was.
I agree with you. Like, I mean, obviously you played with him, but like that's what he reminded me of, like a bit of a thug, and he used to bowl around, and he used to strut around. But like, that's his confidence. That's. I mean, I like that in people.
Yeah, I think because he had a big ass and he couldn't really walk normally, so it was like it wasn't around. But he was honestly, he was. I've never said it to him, like, you know, because you know, but I always thought, do you know what, you're actually a really good player as well. But if there was a fight to be had and a war to be had, he'd be in the middle of it, at the front of it, and probably starting it. Do you know what I mean? But that was him. You know what I mean? And he was a larger than life sort of captain. You know what I mean? I think, you know, and the success we had at Preston, you know, with him being the captain was, you know, we won the league in my first year. Second year, we got to the playoff final to the Premier League, so we were 1 game away from a double promotion into the Premier League, and he was the captain all the way through. And then I think actually that year he played a lot at centre half because our centre half got suspended for the first couple of games, so he slotted in centre half and played just as well there. You know, he was a good guy, bit, you know, just but like a proper character, proper old school character. You know, first at the bar, you know, probably dragging everyone else off the bus to get in the bar and making sure they stay there in a headlock and all that sort of thing. So, I'm glad I got the opportunity to play with him rather than just against him, because it gave me a different idea of what he was as a guy and as a player, to be fair. And that's you know, those three, you know, Chris Ketty, Steve Davis and Sean Gregan, at the base and in the middle of your team. That's some leadership and competitiveness. That's the rest is going to.
And just going back into what you've mentioned, those like the three captains, is that something in that sort of characters you've looked for when you have been manager at clubs, that sort of role or those players you just spoke about?
Yeah, definitely, Marv. You know, we in our recruitment this summer for Salford, you know, when I spoke to the recruitment team, the head of recruitment, I said, captains and leaders. We need captains and leaders, because we changed the squad over a lot in the last 6 months, and the players, unfortunately, we had to move on, were the biggest characters and our biggest leaders. Brilliant pros. You know, I mean, the captains, just the spine, you know, and I knew it wasn't just a case of replacing the actual player. It was a case of replacing the character and the personality and the leader. And we did, I say we have left there now, but we did do that in the summer. And it was certainly, I knew what we wanted playing wise, but a lot of research was gone into, right, who did they captain? Did they win promotion before? Who have they led? What type of leader? It spoke to a lot of people about them, and it's massive, Marv. As a manager, you know, I think you don't want to be the only voice as a manager or the coach. You know, you want people that take that message into the change rooms. You know, I'm not a manager that's in the change rooms from Monday to Friday. That's the players' environment. But you still need your message on professionalism, on winning mentality, on everything. It needs to be interwoven through your team. So you need those pros that are going to do that, set the standards in training, That's the, I think the good teams I've played in or come into have had those characters. And I've talked about, Paul Longdon being an influence on me as a young lad, because of the way he trained and the way he was. Chris Lucchetti, Steve Davis, these people. I took influence off these people, and I think as if you're a pro and a player who wants to win, who wants to train well, who wants to do these things right, you want to look around and be surrounded by these type of guys as well. You don't want to be lost in he's not really bothered, or it don't work. So I think the more you can have, the more it encourages more towards that type of character. Me, the teams that I've been successful as a manager, I can name 3 players in each team, bang, 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 captain leaders that set the standard in training, in the change room, everything. And you need them. They're massive. I'll be honest, I felt probably my last 2 or 3 years as a player was more to do with that. I was probably chosen from the manager, to play more for that than I was actually my footballing, whatever I added to the football side of it. I think it was more to do with what I gave in the changing room or on the training pitch or in the games of that side, to be honest. And I think they're invaluable, mate. You know that as well, Marv. You'd have had them as you're a player. You've had those players where you're led by you and you look up to, and I think it's the way it should be, really. And I think those type of players, and I don't even think it's just in football. I think it's in any sport. I think it's in any business. I think it's people that set the standards and lead the way in their behaviour, in their motivation, their ambition. That it's infectious for everyone.
I think the most successful managers who have, yourself, promotion and stuff like that, you've identified that. And I'm sure it goes all the way to the Premier League with Klopp and Guardiola, that they know as soon as they arrive at a certain club what they're looking for in a leader. And so if it's not already there, if they can't assess it and say, right, within 6 weeks or whatever you may call it, that they can't assess one there, they will go out and get one.
Yeah, without a doubt, mate. I think the biggest one that's the best example of that at the moment and for the last 2 or 3 years is Jordan Henderson at Liverpool. I think he's had to fight like hell to stay at Liverpool over the last since before Klopp was there, and actually prove himself to the football world and to the supporters of Liverpool that he's worthy of being there as a player initially, but then taking over the armband, from Steven Gerrard and then playing week in, week out in the biggest games for Jurgen Klopp in the best team in the world, and people still trying to identify what he brings to the team as in a player. They go, he doesn't score loads of goals. He doesn't do. There's got to be something there without a doubt that isn't on a laptop numbered. Where sports science guys, he's hitting 98 on this or da. That as a human being, that he has got that leads that group of players to unbelievable achievements, and that is through his personality, his character, and that leadership. And those managers that pick him have identified that. Yeah,
it's probably only the one statistic that does prove it is the win ratio with and win ratio without. That's probably, and I don't know that factually, but it's probably one of the few things that does back it up.
But it could be how he is on the training pitch. As a manager, I want this standard set on the training pitch. Right? Who sets that standard? Oh, it's Jordan Henderson. Right. This is how I want him to speak. Generally about the club and what we do things. Who is that? Oh, it's Jordan Henderson. Actually, who's the one that's first in the gym and does his pre-ab stuff and then he's in the gym after training? Oh, it's Jordan Henderson. And these are things that go, I want all my other players to follow that guy. And so when a player comes in and he's moaning why he ain't in the team, you say, well, I'll tell you what you need to do. You need to do this. You need to copy him.
Yeah.
Because, and honestly, it's the easiest way to manage. Go, well, he's in my team every week and he does this and he does that. And by the way, he's 10 years older than you. So there's no reason why you can't do the same thing. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. Because listen, I was a player, Matt was a player. We're great at finding an excuse why we didn't do something. Do you know what I mean? You know, or why we can't do something? Oh, I've got a stiff back. See, I'm 38 now, and it's all bull. It's all bull. You know what I mean? You can set those standards, and I think they're brilliant to have. And I learned that as I went through my career. You know, as a young player, I used to look up to them, but didn't understand what they actually meant to me. You know, how they improved me. But when I was in my 30s, I went, oh yeah, I knew what I took from him. And then I tried to be that player again. You know what I mean? For the younger players. Sometimes I was an arse. I know that. You know what I mean? With the younger players, and I didn't let them off the hook. I demanded the best from them all the time. But I think over time, they actually grew to trust me where it was coming from, that I just wanted them to be the best they could be and everything. And that's, I think that's what Burnley bought when I was 35, 36. I don't think they were buying this magical player that was going to transform their team into this. So I think they were, and probably a lot to do with Steve Davis, telling Steve Cottrell what I was like off the pitch and in training and stuff like that. Yeah. And I think that's what they signed rather than the actual playing side of me, really, to be honest.
Similar to, I mean, I think he was a good player anyway, but Milner, why he's lasted so long. I mean, yeah. And it's like Liverpool. We're not talking about Milner at somewhere like, I mean, Rotherham still playing, and say Rotherham were in the like Championship. We're talking about Milner at Liverpool.
Yeah, the best team in the world right now. Mm. He's and if there's a go-to guy, Klopp turns around and goes, him, bang. Left back, right wing, centre mid.
Goalkeeper.
Yeah, goalkeeper, he probably would. I'll tell you now, if they had an outfield in, it'd be him. And it'd be him or Henderson. I think Henderson actually has gone in goal for him, actually, to be fair. But
I think he has.
Yeah, so I think, you know, these people, these players, characters, honestly, they're worth their weight in gold and more. And it's hard, it's hard for sometimes people outside that environment to actually value that or see it. Yeah. You know, I think, why is he always playing? Or why is he taking their rules? It's because of what they give. And football is a game played by humans, not robots. And not
money. It's not Moneyball.
No, it's not, and it's not joysticks. I know they're trying to get it like that, but it's not. It's human beings with emotions and characters and personalities, and you need those people in there, leaders, and I think those type of guys are brilliant. They're brilliant to be here. And you know what? You love being around them as a coach or a manager, because you ask them, you put on a challenge, you go like, and you know they're going to be up for it. So you actually go for them first. Why don't you try this? Because you know they're going to go on then, and they set the way.
Yeah. Awesome. So Flair. Now we've got our spine, our hard men, our captains. What are we going for Flair wise? Everywhere else.
The Flair's a sort of word, but no, there's two players.
We'll edit your quote marks out. It's fine.
Yeah,
so the players won't get offended.
Yeah, that's a horrendous, isn't it? But no, the Flair. Look, because I think one of them is, and one of them probably wouldn't count himself as a Flair player, but they're both good footballers. I mean, you know, I look across the players that I was trying to select. You know, I've got them written down here. I've got guys that I played with at Luton, then I've got players that I played with over my career, and they're all sort of similar type of players. You know, like I know he's a bit of a madman, but Kerry Hughes went at Luton. You know what I mean? He was. You know, I got really close with Kerry, but he was a madman, wasn't he? And he was like
madman, but he had ability.
What do you mean, madman? I always thought he was quite quiet. He came across as kind of the kid with curtains.
Kerry
was quite quiet.
I mean, I suppose from the inside, obviously we had it at first hand, but he was a nutter, Andrew. I mean, again, and you don't have to edit this out, because it's the truth. And I speak to Kerry every now and then on Twitter. I mean, so
he's like, you know, right foot, left foot. He could score a goal. He can make a tackle. He was fit. You know what I mean? Love to be a social with the boys, and you know, because he lived around the corner from me and Milton Keynes and Marv. So he was, you know, people like him, Ray McKinnon, who joined us later on. You know, these guys are footballers. You know, Ray was right and left foot. He'd take corners with both feet, wouldn't he, Ray?
Yeah.
Like, it's just. You know, and these guys, like they were midfield sort of just footballers. You know, not really good along the the sort of spectrum of being a midfield player. I played with Darren Fletcher and Barry Ferguson for Scotland, who were real good players at playing at top levels, you know, Man United, Rangers and everything. And these guys were really good players, midfield players that I played with. But the two I've gone for, is one I played with, I think I probably played more games with him than I did with any other teammate, because he was there when I joined Preston and he was there when I left. He was a one club man up to a certain point. I think he was there for about 12 years. Then he went off to, I think, Nottingham Forest. Then he went to Hull. He shares the name with a famous magician.
Got blonde hair. Or did he have blonde hair?
Blonde hair, yeah, blonde hair. But he was like, he played on the left. He sort of played on left midfield when I first went there, but then he was a central midfield player basically. And David Moyes eventually, played him in central midfield, and he just had a great end. Played
McGregor.
Nearly. Yeah.
McKenna.
Paul McKenna. Yeah. So. Paul McKenna was like, he was a young kid when I got there. He was 20, I think he was 21, young pro at North End, and he sort of used to play off the left a little bit, but he wasn't a winger. He was a midfield player, and he was a little bit like I thought he was very understated, but could score spectacular goals, could run up and down all day long, make passes, make tackles. He was only 5'8". I'm trying to be kind to him there, but he, a bit of a chunk, but he weren't. I mean, he was solid, but people used to think, he's got a bit of weight, but he didn't. His mum and dad actually used to cook our meals for us at the training ground every day, because they're like pressing through and through, which was brilliant. Got to know them really well. But over the years, with me playing at right back and in central midfield, and we got a really good understanding how each other played. So we play little cute passes to each other. We almost automatically knew where we were going to be, how we wanted to receive a ball, what we were as players, and it was just I eventually became really good mates with him. He been on a couple of holidays with his family and everything like that. But he was we always felt he was one of those players that underappreciated by everybody else, but inside all the players go McKenna. That player's player. And
yeah.
I think he was quality like that. And I was buzzing when he got his move to Nottingham Forest, because I think it gave everyone actually a new vision of him. He went to Forest and did really good things, and Hall, and it's like, he's a good player, wasn't he, Kenna, and all this lot. And then you see the players that come in after him, and they're not quite as good. And then players, Paul McKenna was some player, wasn't it? It's almost so, you're better sometimes when you're gone or you're not playing.
Right.
I mean, I think it was like, but for me, he was, I'll put him in because we had a real good understanding, and he was one that just loved training every day. Weren't a big football lover off the pitch. He'd rather be fishing or stuff like that. He never watched a game of football. He was like, it could be the World Cup final, and we'd be talking about it. He'd be like, was that yesterday? Oh, no. He was just like that. But I think it gave him a sort of detachment from the game, which made him just go out and play every week, And I thought it was probably go back to Steve Davis here, really, which I meant to say, out of this team, with Steve and Paul McKenna, they should have. Steve probably, if he'd had another yard of pace, would have definitely played in the Premier League for years. You know what I mean? Because it's, but there's always something that holds us back at some, and he would have played in the Premier League. And I think with McKenna, I think David Moyes has actually said that he regrets not taking him to Everton when he left Preston. You know what I mean? Because he worked with him every single day and knew what top player he was. So he would get in that team as well, because his consistency over the 8 years I was at Preston, never had a bad game. just always at it, always there, and just so reliable and a good player. And if you put a little compilation of his goals, he didn't score loads, but then there'd just be spectacular left foot volleys or chips or something like that. He just had that ability to do that every now and then. So he'd be on the right hand side of that midfield three. Because to get
did you say he was chunky or fit?
Yeah. He was like,
I remember him, and because when he was talking about it, I'm thinking, I know he's talking about his blonde hair. I thought he was like quite slim and quite skinny and a bit like a David Priest.
Yeah, there was another guy at Preston called Lee Cartwright who played in front of me, right wing, and he was like that, like blonde hair, but really skinny. But I mean, like.
But now I'm sure I want to because did he have like a little bit blonde curlyish hair? Like
Paul McKenna, yeah. He's probably in his younger days when he played for Preston.
Younger days, probably.
And then he wasn't. Like, he looked chunky now, and he was chunky. Like, he had a bit of an arse on him, but he'd be at the front of the running every day. You know what I mean? Right. His body fat was down, and he just, he was just that built. His mum and dad were the same, but he was a top player and should have played in the Premier League and had that opportunity, but unfortunately just kept falling short like we all did at Preston, by losing playoff finals every second or third year. So unfortunately, So I'll move on to the
other side.
Yeah, the other midfield on the left hand side, and this is where your flair comes in, which he talks about. Andrew is a lad I played with at Burnley. Was a winger originally, and got converted into when we changed the formation from a 4-4-2 to 4-3-3, and I got moved from fullback into the middle one. He got converted from the right wing into the right-sided midfield player, and we just hit it off from there. He just wanted to dribble, take people on, score goals. I was sort of the security blanket behind him. We had a weird relationship as in we bickered and fought in every game. I was screaming and telling him to do one thing, he'd be telling me to do one, and I'm going to do this and do that, and it was constant. I mean, virtually every game. But I speak to him every now and then. Now still, we get on great. It was just on the pitch. He had very strong opinions. I had very strong opinions. Sometimes they differed. And
from London? Is he from London?
He is. He's from down there. Yeah. I think Burnley signed him from Bournemouth. I think, and then he's I'm not sure whereabouts in London, but he's definitely a Southern guy. Scored probably the biggest goal in Burnley's recent history in the last 20, 30, 40 years in the playoff final when we...
Oh, that's my idea out then.
When we beat Sheffield United at Wembley in 2009.
I can't think who scored that. I was thinking of someone. I'm going to say him anyway, but like you threw me. I didn't think he was at Bournemouth, but I'm going to say him anyway. Glenn Little?
No, because I didn't play with Glenn. I played against Glenn. I remember when I was listening to Steve's podcast and he was talking about him. And to be fair, he was horrendous to play against him. He was so difficult. But he was a lot smaller than him. He was
I was saying Aaron Lennon, but
no. He was that sort of. Was he? No, he's a bit bigger than that. I won't kill him off. But I think he's currently coaching at Cheltenham with another guy with Michael Duff. But it's Wade Elliott.
Wade Elliott.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So he was converted. He hated being on the wing. I mean, he was a winger. I played against him when I was at Preston as a fullback, and he played on the wing, and he was really hard to play against. But he wanted to play inside one and all this sort of thing. But when we went to a three, it gave him the opportunity to do that. So, I'd just be patrolling in front of their back four, holding fort, making my passes, and the guys in front. It was a back five, a back four, and me. And then a front five that just basically were allowed to do anything they wanted to. And that's probably where a lot of our arguments came from. Because I wanted to this, that, and the other. But he had brilliant ability, could take the ball everywhere, could get you up the pitch 60 yards with one mazy run, could score some great goals. And to be fair, without his goal at Wembley in 2009, I would never have, succeeded in my dream to play in the Premier League. And, he was a top player. And I think he went on to play for Bristol City and Birmingham after that. But he was a real good player and a real successful team that did great. And he could play, look at Paul McKenna and Wade Elliott and Sean Gregan with the centre half, but they could play in different positions. So if you wanted to change your team, Wade could play out on the right, Paul McKenna play on the left and stuff like that. So I think these are players that were footballers that you could go do this job. They're intelligent enough and technically good enough to go, I can do that role. And I think that's a big thing for a footballer, mate. That you have that, you embrace that sort of opportunity to change a position or to play in somewhere else for the team, do what it takes for the team, not be scared of it and just go, right, how can I adapt to this and get on with it? And I think those two guys, Paul McKenna and Wade Elliott, will certainly do that.
Great.
Fabulous. So, forwards.
Right. I mean,
big bucks people get paid the money to score the goals.
Yeah. And I tell you, as a manager, now I know why they got the big bucks. I tell you now, mate, flipping out. And now I know, as a fullback, why you don't.
Is it true? Obviously, you're a manager. I know you're not going to give us numbers and stuff, but is it true that the further up the pitch you go, the wages do go up?
I think
on the whole,
I think the centre forward strikers 100%. Yeah. There's not been a club that I've managed to somewhere where the highest paid player hasn't been up front. And I knew that as a player as well. Even in my 30s, when I was at Preston, I got to the point where I knew my value as a I eventually was captain there. But I knew I started doing my own contracts with the club because I felt, well, I don't need an agent to go in and renegotiate my contract. I've learned that. I pretty much know where the wage structure is. I know I'm not going to get paid what player A and B get because they're 23 and they've scored 20 goals or blah, blah, blah. But I'm also the captain. I know what I value. So I should be somewhere in that. But it was always behind centre forwards. And I would say, Marv, centre halves as well.
I don't know. I wouldn't know. All I know is that when you're at one club, I'm not going to mention obviously like Luton, but at one club, in my head, it was always that when you came through the ranks, it was. You heard figures. Players were getting ridiculous amount of money. I was happy with my contracts obviously because I would never have signed them at the end of the day. But you just feel that you got a little bit undervalued being at a club the whole career and hearing figures of certain figures being thrown around. But I just want to jump back to what you've just said there about doing your own contract because, within the research in the summer of 2007, I think it was, club captain, and they turned down a bid of 50,000 or something from Palace, and then I think they were quoted as saying, well, we're not going to sell Graham Alexander. He's a captain and he's a vital member of our squad. And then in August, you go to Burnley.
I know. That was the Crystal Palace thing was the year before. Actually.
Oh, okay.
It was 2006, but they came in and I think I was 34 at the time, and they wanted to sign me. I didn't want to leave. I've been at Preston for 6-7 years. I had a brilliant time there. Still felt that we could get to the Premier League and everything. And I loved playing for the club. And but they turned the bid down and gave me another year on my contract, which was great. The following season, it happened again. That's when Steve rang me about Burnley and saying, would you consider coming across and this, that, the other. And I said, look, mate, captain of Preston, I love it and all this stuff. He goes, yeah, but you've only got a year left on your contract. I said, well, yeah. He goes, well, we're prepared to offer you 2 years. I said, right. And I was 35, and by then I'm going, well, that's 2 more years of championship football, which is great, guaranteed. But I said to Steve, I goes, but look, my initial thing is to stay at Preston. So I spoke to the manager at Preston. I said, look, this offer's on the table. I don't want to go. I don't want to go anywhere, but I'm 35. This was the second or the third game of the season, so really early on. I had the rest of that season contract. And I said, but they offered me a 2-year contract. But look, it was actually more money as well. You know, it'd been the most money I'd ever earned, like, you know, at Burnley. I said to Preston, I said, look, I just wanted another season. I said, look, if I another year, I don't want a penny more. Stay what I'm on. Take me to 10 years. I just want to stay here. And the manager was like, well, look, we want to see how your legs are and your fitness are. And I went, well, and honestly, this was 3 days after me playing my 400th game, which, like, there's only 10 players before that played 400 games for Preston. And this was in 8 seasons. So I basically played 50 games every season for 8 years. I said, what, and you want to see how fit I am? I think you know how fit I am.
Yeah.
And you know my legs ain't going to go. And also, but there was another thing behind it. They'd signed a lad, Billy Jones, on as a right back from Crewe, and they'd signed him on a tribunal. And good player, he's 21, but they paid a lot more than what they thought they were going to pay. You know, I think they were hoping to get 400 grand. I think it turned out about 500 grand. Now he was on the bench behind me, and I'm sitting there going, well, not many £500,000 subs at Preston North End. Eventually, he's going to be in the team at some point. I'm 35. I think there's a thing going on here where I think that we'll get to Christmas and say, look, we're not going to offer you a contract, and then I'm free to go. By that time, Billy Jones is in the team, blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't afford to let it go to that point. Do you know what I mean? I was like, no, I either need the new contract or I need to be able to speak to Burnley and leave, because I'm not waiting till Christmas. And then it gets to the end of the season. I'm 36, out of contract with all the other players. I can't do that. You know what I mean? There's timing in the game. And honestly, and so it was brilliant because I spoke to the manager and he was, I can't say I'm a captain, I'll get hung. You know what I mean? I'll get battered and all this stuff. I spoke to the chairman, he said the same. And then I said, look, I'm in a position, you know I love Preston, you know I want to stay, this, that, the other. And but I have to look after my career and my family, this, that, the other. And anyway, the chairman at Preston rang the chairman at Burnley. I think he thought they wanted me for free or something, right? And then I think as soon as they said, we'll give you 200 grand, he was like, right, you'll be there tomorrow. And then I got a phone call from the chairman. He's like, Graham, I really don't want to lose you, but I think you can go and speak to him, mate. Yeah, I know, because you've spoke to him and they've offered you 200 grand. So, you know, for someone who they had 8 years previous for 50 grand or whatever it was. So, but it was weird because, like, honestly, I got presented with a silver salver from the chairman on the pitch. My family, my kids, and all picture on the pitch, my 400th game, all that lot. And 3 days later, I was at Burnley with the biggest rivals. You know what I mean? Just overnight sort of thing. It was like,
wow.
It was a massive. And we played Colchester my last game here, and then the first game for Burnley a week later was Colchester away. So I was playing the exact same team again 7 days later. And like it was horrendous because honestly, my wife didn't want me to leave. She was going, just stay here, don't worry, it'll work out. My dad didn't want me to leave. To be fair, my teammates didn't want me to leave, but I knew I had to make this decision professionally happen. You know what I mean? But I was in tears when I left. You know what I mean, Marv? I'm not a big emotion. I was in tears when I left because I didn't want to go. You know what I mean? I loved it, but I knew I would be leaving at some point, and I wanted to leave on my terms when it was better for me than being chucked out with 800 other players at the end of the season when I was 36. So, so that's how it came about, really, and it was, you know, it worked out really. I mean, look, it worked out brilliant for me because a year and a half later, I eventually got to the Premier League, which I never envisaged at all with Burnley. But it was just a really, really strange time. But you know, a big point in that was Steve Davis being over there. You know, and but yeah, it was a and that was something. I think. Well, it was an agent that I sort of spoke to, Gordon Armstrong, who was Steve's mate, who played for Burnley, and I just said, look, if I'm ever leaving Preston for any you can do the work for me, but if I'm staying here, I'll sort out my contracts myself, and that's how it works for him. So
awesome, interesting,
right,
very
anyway,
interesting.
Yeah. Back to the theme. Yeah. So anyway, back to the money makers and the money earners. So look, I mean, I'll play. You know, it's going to be difficult because I haven't actually got a Luton player in this front three.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's your team. That's what I'm saying.
But you know, I look back and you know, obviously Scott Oakes was there when I first got there. You know what I mean? Who was the main man, really, wasn't he? He wasn't there for long after. I think he left that season. I think my first season anyway. After he had that spectacular season the season before, he was a top quality player. Dave Oldfield, who I got to know really well over my time at Luton. Great guy, brilliant guy, and played at a top level. You know, with Man City and everything, and Leicester. And you know, he came back and continued to score goals for Luton. The one that can be really disappointing missing out is Thorpe. You know, Tony Thorpe was, you know, it was great because he was a young player when I first got there, and actually I got changed in the away change room when I first came to Luton. I wasn't in the. I found it difficult really when I first come to Luton because I played 200 first team games by that stage, and I was 23, and I felt like I'd earned my stripes, and then I walked into Luton and I'm immediately put into the.
Why? Who put you in there? That's weird.
I don't know. It was just because they had a sheet on the front of each front of each door, which player to go in where. You know what I mean? And I think I was in the same hotel as Steve, and obviously we drove in drove in the same car and walked in the corridor. And then he went into the home team change room the first day, and I went into the away team.
I never knew that until this day. That is so strange.
I was in there with all the young pros like Mark Howe, Paul McLaren, Kel Daves, Thorpe, all the young ones that were trying to break in, and immediately, and look, this is it took me ages to get over that. You know, I to actually feel like I was a first team player because I thought, is that where they see me? Not.
But again, that's. I mean. We paid money for you, and again, he signed with Steve, and I'm thinking, I mean, that's strange. I didn't notice that. You got changed in the away team dressing room. Yeah,
with all the young pros, and I was like, and I just remember it like, and I'm sure Thorpe was in there because you know what Thorpe was like. He never showed up, you know. So he was like this, you know, taught, and he was one of the first ones I recognised, you know, noticed and sort of thing. But yeah, it was a bit of a blow to my self-esteem a little bit when I first got there. I think I felt quite a long time to actually settle into. I didn't actually feel settled into the club until the following season when in League One, because then I played regularly every week. Whereas the first season I probably played, I think I started maybe 25, 30 games in and out. The team struggled, got relegated and everything. But I think that first day going in there was like, actually, I think I should be in there a little bit because I've played 200 senior games. And, you know, I'm not a kid. I know I'm 23, but I'm not a kid. I think it was maybe I'd come up from the 4th division, but I don't know. Anyway, that was it. But Thorpe was, you know, he took a bit of time he probably established himself in the second year as well, you know, in League One. But he had 2 years where he just couldn't stop scoring, could he? You know, and make sure everyone knew about it. You know what I mean? No, he was there. I mean, he was a funny character. Great. I used to love him. You know, he'd be a moaning about. Yeah. Grezzo, give it to my feet. Grezzo, I want it in behind. Grezzo, give it. And I was Warpy and all this stuff. And he was with everyone, wasn't he, like that? And all this stuff. His confidence and his cockiness was brilliant. I loved it. You know, I think. You know, I remember him scoring a goal, and it was when he was in the middle of his, you know, streak, 2 seasons basically, but. I think he scored a hat-trick.
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about Rotherham.
It might have been Rotherham. I don't know. It might have been that. But I remember him running away. And I'm next to him, like me out, and he's going, "Who's marking me? Who's marking me?" You know, to himself, just saying, like, "Who's marking me?" And it's like just running off. And I remember he did the pinch with a score on his. Yeah, he lifted it up and it was 1-0, and then on the back he had 2-0, and it worked out 1-0 and 2-0, and he scored both goals. It was like, it's just
it got. I mean, again, like we was talking yesterday about stories, how they come back into your head. When you just mentioned that, and get Lennie Lawrence again story, because he thought he was scoring for fun. That, I mean, like you said, for those 2 years, but that one season he was just like bang, 4p. Yeah. You could just know if Luton went 1 up, 4 was the goal scorer. And we were playing at Rotherham, I think it was, and we were like comfortable, like winning week in, week out. And Lennie said, he goes, if he gets a hat trick today, this is how he was talking. If he gets a hat trick today, I'm taking him off. And I think it was Rotherham. I think he got a hat trick and he took him off.
Yeah, he took him off. I can't remember him saying that and taking him off.
Yeah, because he was scoring that many, and then again in a roundabout way, we knew it was a team, but it was like the onus was always on 4p. So I think Lennie was trying to like think, well, I'm going to take him off and see now someone else now come bring someone else to the table, sort of thing. Rather, it's just him scoring, because like at some point you might not have him. So what are we going to do? Sort of thing.
It was a good job we did have him, though, I like, to be fair. But he was good, wasn't he? He was quality, you know what I mean? And I played against it because he went to Fulham. Obviously, had a great move to Fulham, and I played against him when I went on to Preston and played against him a couple of times. And it was always good to speak to him and everything. But you know, I just think that I played with players after that that at a higher level and were from played at a high level and scored more goals and this, that, and probably had longer careers. But those 3 guys for me stood out from the time there. And then, you know, I go to my time at Preston and Burnley, really, and play people like David Nugent and Ricardo Fuller and Richard Creswell, Jay Rodriguez, who's playing now, you know, at Burnley, but he was only a young kid coming through in my time there. But you could tell he was going to be a top player straight away. You know, he was brilliant. Martin Patterson, who scored a load of goals when we got promoted. Steve Thompson, all these guys that I played with were top notch. But the ones when I went to Preston, there was a lad there. If I take them in order of when I played with them, when I first went there was a lad who had signed from Preston, from Manchester United, young lad, and similar to Thorpe, really, where he had 2 seasons for Preston, where it was just like goal, 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 goal. He was phenomenal, and he was built like Mark Hughes, looked a bit like Mark Hughes, like massive quads, chunk of a guy. Just wrap it into him, take it in, roll the defender, bang it in top corner, could score spectacular goals. Scored possibly the best goal I've been on the pitch for against Man City, who he went on to play for, where he took a touch on halfway line on the turn and then just volleyed it 50 yards in the air and it dropped in the top corner. It was live on Sky. And Kevin Keegan was the manager then. I think that was the moment he went, who's that? And I need him and I want him. And eventually he signed him for £5 million. And he went on to Man City. Probably didn't hit the heights that we all thought he would, but still had a very good career in the Premier League. Scored a famous goal for Man City when they come back against Tottenham, when they were 3-0 down with 10 men at half time, and they won 4-3 in the FA Cup. And he scored the winner in the last minute, a header.
I can't. I know. Again, it's similar to earlier on. I can see his face. I can see him running. Another goal you're talking about, and I just can't think of his name. Can you, Andrew? Oh my gosh.
No, I've got my head in my hands. I'm trying to.
No, it's one of these where he was. Mark Hughes is the biggest sort of easiest thing you can go. You can see what he was like. But it's a lad called John Macken.
John Macken, that's it. I knew it.
I think he scored 20 odd goals in the season we won the league. 20 odd
great
goals
player.
Season after in the Championship, continued to do that. I think he scored about 50 goals in 2 seasons for us. And but it weren't just a goal scorer. Like if it was a fight, it'd be up there, bang, knocking centre house all over the place. He could run in the channel, he could hold it up. He was just like, I was like, this is just a complete all-round centre forward. You know what I mean? With the added bonus of he scores for fun.
Goals.
And I think it was something. I remember when I first joined, he had this. I think he had a name for that season that he didn't score, And I think he did everything but score. Like, he did all the work outside the box, all that sort of. And I remember David Moyes working with him, working all the time, finishing all the time. And it was one of them. I think he's probably in a similar situation to me, where David Moyes probably signed him, said, "You do this, do that, but I'll improve this, that, and the other."
Yeah.
And then went and did it. And that's what turned him into a £5 million player. You know, I think that's what he added into him. And once he got on a roll, he was just, you know, it's how we went from League One to the Championship with exactly the same squad. We didn't add any players to that, and got to the playoff final that year as well in the Championship with a basic group of players that hadn't played in the Championship. I'd had 30 games for Luton, you know, at the age of 27. You know, Rob Edwards has played a couple. Mark Rankin, who played for us there, he did. But none of the others had ever even played in the Championship, and we finished fourth behind. It was Bolton, Blackburn, and Fulham were the top three, and they all got promoted and stayed in the Premier League for the next 8 years. So it weren't like 3 teams that went up and down.
Yeah.
It was like 3 teams that stayed in the Premier League for 3 years.
Just unfortunate that was the season.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's the one. It was. To be fair, you know, we got to the playoff final, and I remember it. We were, like we said, we were basically League One 12 months before. Yeah. We were playing in this game, 1 game away from playing all the grounds we'd all dreamed of. And they had like Colin Hendry and Dean Holdsworth playing, and just veteran internationals that just went, this is just another game. And you know, they won the game. I would say comfortably, but you know, looking back on it, we didn't give us a chance. But to get to that level, it was because players like John Macken just stepped up to the next level and showed what they could do. And he was top notch. Went to Man City for £5 million, and you know, played for them. And then he went to a couple of other clubs, and but he probably didn't hit that. And it's hard to, when you score 50 goals in 2 seasons, you know, and then you go to the Premier League. I mean, who does that in the Premier League? So, but I think he had a fantastic career. He was brilliant as a right back at the time that had a lot of ball. You know, those passes, you know, you can just give it the off and wrap it into the striker's feet, and that. He was perfect for playing off like that. So he was top notch. He would be straight down the middle.
Okay. Wasn't that big, was he?
No, that's what I mean. I think he was, I reckon, probably 5'10", 5'11". But I mean, honestly, his thighs were like, that's why I say Mark Hughes. It was just like pure power and just roll you. You know what I mean? So centre halves had him, and he just swat him out of the way with his power and bang in. But yeah, good lad, great lad as well for pitch. So he's the step forward of the front.
Okay.
And then we've got 2 players either side of him, and they can both play off either side. I'll go for the one that's starting on the left first, that I played with Burnley. I could give you an easy tip and say he also made Steve's team. But it's one of the 2. But I played with Burnley, and you know what, I played against him quite a bit in my younger days in the other level, and I always thought he was a really skillful player, but a bit of a luxury sort of thing, like a bit like, I don't know if you'd win anything with him, like. And I probably put it, and then when I played with him, I went, this guy is magic. He's unbelievable. And he was the one of those players, similar to the other one that I'm going to speak about, is the game's 0-0, 1-1. You go, how are we going to win this? And it's like, I reckon it's going to be him. And
I'm thinking one of them either side has to be, I'm guessing now, Robbie Blake.
Yeah.
Robbie Blake. He was, I mean, honestly, I played against him. I played against him a couple of times when I was at Preston and he was at Burnley, and he was really hard because he could go right or left foot. He could score from 30 yards or chip the keeper or something. I always thought there was a way you could maybe make it hard for him, like get physical with him or something like that. But when I played with him, I was like, actually, no, you can't. He's a tough boy. You know, you can bump him, but he'll give me the ball again. He'll take the hits because he had a big arse as well, and he could roll people and that, and he could take the hits. But right foot, left foot. I mean, he was brilliant in the season we got promoted. Me and him played every single game, and then he scored obviously in our first win in the Premier League. He scored that wonder goal against Man United when we won 1-0. Scored that volley that keeps still getting shown now, like, and But as a character off the pitch, by far the funniest man, apart from you, Marv. Apart from you, the funniest man I've ever met. He was absolutely hilarious, and honestly, no one, even the manager or coaching staff or any of them, was out of bounds for him. It was like he would debag the coaches. He'd just give them a little Hong Kong fooey chop on their Adam's apple to stop them talking. Like sometimes, it just little things like that. And I remember the goalkeeping coach at Burnley. We were at a hotel and we're getting served by the girl who's serving the food now, and he's got his soup in one hand, and he's asking for his whatever his food, his spaghetti bolognese on his plate like that, and then Blakey's behind him, and as soon as he gets food put on that plate and he's got out, he just went and whipped his trousers down in front of this waitress, and like he can't do anything about it because he's got his hands full with a hot plate. And he's like that. Honestly, this is a goalkeeping coach, and honestly, put the plates down, pulled his pants up, and he's chasing Blakey around the pit, and he's around the hotel. Obviously, want to kill him, and Blakey's laughing, and he'd do it with the assistant manager. Like, remember that Owen Cole was he was going nuts at us after a game, and because we got beat 2-0 this in our first season, he was going crazy, and as he's doing it, his teeth have popped out. Like he's got dentures, and he's caught them like on his lip. Like Owen Cole, like, but because he's going nuts, we're all like looking down at the ground, like starting, chuckle away, like. And then Owen Cole was brilliant, and he put them back in anyway. And we were in the shower afterwards, and he come in and went, Blakey, I can't believe you didn't nail me for that, for my teeth flying out and all this, because like even Blakey at that point was like, don't want to say anything, but we just beat 2-0. But he was just, I think if Blake had said something, I think Coyley would just be like, good one, Blake. You know what I mean? He just had that sort of, he'd say something to you that would cut you down, but he'd just be smiling, you just laugh. And, we won the playoff finally, and he had these pants on, these red pants on underneath that became a bit of a lucky charm for him because he used to play cards all the time. And he was called Bad Beat Bob because, like, whatever card game. But he had it printed on his arse on these pants. And when the game, honestly, there's footage after the game, he's running around Wembley, like smacking his arse with these pants on, like, and he's just head the ball, mate. But honestly, an absolute magician on the pitch. Brilliant. Like, any skills game, volleys and stuff like that, it was like Blakey was a winner by a mile. He was just, he was a top player, great lad, brilliant lad off the pitch. One of those guys where, you if you did get beat, you were gutted in that, but within 10 minutes, he'd be chirping around, he'd be getting everyone back at it and all this lot. And just, he was perfect for our team there, and he was perfect for Owen Cole, who loved that positive environment, and he was great for that. But he was a nightmare to play against, but brilliant to play with. He was one of them where you should go, we're struggling here, get Blakey the ball. And invariably he'd produce, and he was top player. And he played in Premier League, Burnley, Bolton, I think Bradford as well before. So he had a fantastic career.
All right. There's the other winger on the other side.
Yeah, the other one is really similar to Blakey, as in the way he was a player, and as you look to him to open doors. But this is a player I played with for Scotland. He was a young lad when he came into the squad, unknown to me, but coming through the ranks at Motherwell, and he was he was a street footballer, really. Just a guy where he'd nutmeg you, he'd chip the keeper. He was a sort of throwback to the traditional Scottish players of the 60s and 70s. The players that they used to love, and he came down to England with Everton at first under David Moyes. Then he went on to play for Birmingham as well under Alex McLeish.
Mac.
I was going to say Gary.
Mac's a good guess if he's Scottish.
Mac. Is it McFadden?
McFadden, James McFadden.
Oh, I was going to go Naismith. Okay, yeah.
No,
No,
McFadden, yeah.
After me, to be fair, he came in the squad after me. But no, James McFadden was he came into the squad. I think he was about 19, and he was just a boy, really. But like, he had this little ponytail out the back. He was like, honestly, it was. But he came on the pitch, and he was like, "Who's this?" You know, it was just frightening. And he came on. He was on my first sort of squad. I was 13. I think he was about 19. And we went to Hong Kong and played a round of games, and he missed the flight back because we had a night out on the last night, and he didn't make it back to the hotel. So everyone's on the flight apart from him, and it's his first trip. He's 19.
First trip.
But no, he had to fly home about 2 days later. One of the liaison geezers had to stay behind, but he was like, and at the time I was thinking, oh, will that be? I hope that's not the last we see of him, because he's a great quality player and young lad. And to be fair, Bertie Vogts, the manager at the time, was like, he's a young player, made a mistake, that's it. And he came in and he was just he was so similar to Robbie Blake, where, you know, we played some big teams, Italy, France. We beat France twice, and we knew we were going to be under the cosh against these teams. You know, it was like, we're not going to see much of the ball, and we're not going to create 10, 12, 15 chances. Our chances are of getting anything out of this game is keep a clean sheet, defend and be strong, and get the ball to Faddy. And he might do something. He might dribble from the halfway line past three. But he did, in the second time we beat France, it was Paris away, and it was mental. It's probably something more. It was like we'd been under the cosh, of course. We're playing France in Paris, and then we'd already beaten 1-0 the year before, so they were out for revenge now. And this was all their stars, Ribery, the lot playing, and we had a goal kick, played it up. He got flicked on to Faddy, and he was honestly about 10 yards over the halfway line. Turned, hit it like on the turn, and it flies in the top corner, and it's like it just pandemonium. And we won 1-0 again, and it was probably our only shot. It was the only player on the pitch that would have even tried that, but he didn't care. He didn't care. He played up front on his own against Thuram and people like that, and he's trying to nutmeg him, dink it over the head and all this lot. And he was just a lad that had come from the street of Scotland, nutmegging his mates, playing 5-0s, playing all that sort of thing, head tennis and that, and then just took it onto the pitch.
Just fearless. Fearless.
Unbelievably fearless. They have a saying for him in Scotland. He's gallus, and that's what they call it. It's like that. Give me the ball, I'll do this. Like the old Scottish players are sitting, Jimmy Johnsons and people like that. And he was a throwback to that era. So the fans loved him, the players loved him, because he was a great guy, and he helped us win games that we probably didn't deserve to win or shouldn't have won. You know what I mean? And in my last game for Scotland, in my 40th cap, we beat, I think it was Macedonia at home, and he got the ball around the halfway line, and one of those where the line steps up and he just played it through for himself, nutmegged the centre half and went round him, and then put the keeper on his arse, went round him and just rolled it into an empty net. It was like pure like George Best type goal, right. You know what I mean? And that's the great guy off the pitch, you know what I mean? Really weren't bothered about the trappings, all that sort of stuff. Just wanted to be out there, taking free kicks, scoring penalties, chipping keepers, playing fight, brilliant. And I loved the sort of, those type of players did things that I never could. You know what I mean? Never, I just wanted to win. But these guys would try things and just go for things. And I think as I got older, I'm glad I played with these when I was older, because younger, I would have gone, he's so greedy. He's this. You know what I mean? We just got to pass it. We just keep it simple. But these didn't. They tried the hard things. They tried the amazing things. And it didn't always come off. I'd give them that. But do you know what? They gave us, when we were at Burnley, we were a team that were underdogs, that would go, at the top end of the Championship, and then went into the Premier League. But Robbie Blake gave us a chance to win. Yeah. With Scotland, we were playing Germany, Holland, France. We were the underdogs by a mile, but he gave us a chance to win. And those type of players, I sort of, grew to actually appreciate more as I knew what the game was more about, and the fans loved them as well because they could do things that normal players couldn't do. So I think with those three players up front, with John down the middle and Blakey and Fab off the side, they just create and score goals for fun. And to be fair, all of them, these players, you would love to sit in a change room next to and look at them and go, we're going to go out and do some good things today. And that for me is one of the biggest things in football. It's, you know, I would love to pick myself in that team. Do you know what I mean? But I think that, you know what I mean? I think I'll put myself as first sub.
No, that's fantastic. But like, who is going to manage that team? Which manager? I mean, we haven't really spoke a lot about the managers, but I mean, you've mentioned it briefly, like Bertie Volts and David Moyes. So, I mean,
yeah, it's look, when I came to Luton, obviously, I think similar to Steve, I think I was originally meant to sign under David Pleat, but he left that summer to go to Sheffield Wednesday, I think, and you know, Terry Wesley took over, and you know, it was a tough time for Terry, I think, you know, coming from the youth team into the first team to influence everybody in that, and so I only had a brief spell, you know, 5 months under Terry, and then obviously Lennie came in, and he was the manager the whole time I was at Luton after that, and you know, he was brilliant with me, Lennie, in my last year there, because I spoke to Lennie the previous summer, and that's, I played in midfield up until that time, and I said, look, I'm 27, and I've not played above the bottom two divisions. You know, I want to play higher. I feel that my best chance is to play at right back. I think that's where I first started. I came into the game as an apprentice as a fullback. I said, and I've never played there at first team level, and I think that's why my career is stalled. And I said, I want to play right back. I think I can play right back. Great for you, and this, that, and the other. And I think Jules got injured. I think Julian James broke his leg quite badly at Bristol Rovers.
Yes, he did.
The year before, unfortunately. And I think he tried a couple of players there. And after me speaking to him, he said, right, okay, I'll give you go there, play there. And I did say to him, and I think it might be a hard thing to say or to hear as a manager. I don't know. Well, I do know as a manager, but I said to him, look, I don't think anyone will sign me if it costs a fee. You know, I don't think anyone will pay money for me now at 27. I said, so I'm not going to sign any new contracts here. I goes, this is my last year, and I'm not going to re-sign. And it's pure for football reasons. I want to. Bosman had come in 2 years before or something.
Yep.
Bosman, and I said, I think if I have a good season and I'm out there on a free, I might get picked up by a championship club as a free sort of thing. And you know, Lennie, okay, we'll see. Anyway, you know, he was pretty blasé about it or something. But and then, you know, a couple of months, you know, started the season well. We started the season well, Luton. You know, we had some good results and everything. And he offered me the club wanted me to offer me a new contract. You know, as a senior player, because by then we'd sold a lot of players, haven't we, Marv? You know, there weren't many senior players left really.
And Steve gone then, I think. And Steve
Steve went that January. You know, right. So I said, look, I'm not going to sign Lennie. I'm sticking to my guns. This, that, the other. You go, okay. You know, got to do what I've got to do as manager. You know, and all this lot, doing his hands and all this lot. But he was, when I think about 3 times through the season, they offered me new contracts, decent money, and all this lot. But I was determined. I wanted to try and play at a higher level, and I didn't. With what had happened at Luton over the previous couple of years, I didn't think Luton was going to get back to there because of the money situation and selling all the good players. And so I was like, and to be fair to Lennie, it would have been easy for him to go, well, I'm not going to play you or anything like that. He never even considered, never did that. You know, I think he knew that I was doing it for the right reasons because it's football reasons only. But I must admit, I was getting nervous probably in the February because I only had 4 months left on my contract. I had a mortgage, I had my missus, like my son, my wife was pregnant with the twins, which we knew were twins by then. I was like, oh no, that's even more money. What am I doing? I had about I had about £1 in the bank, and I had 4 months left on my contract, and I was like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? And then, as we were talking yesterday, that lad, Paul Buckle, nearly broke my ankle in a tackle.
Yeah.
And I was, you know what I mean? And I was out for a few weeks, and I was like, what am I doing here? And then they offered me another contract, but I was like, if I sign that contract, that's my chance of playing at high level gone. I'm doing it because I've got a mortgage to pay or this. I spoke to Karen. I said, look, are you okay with me just having a gamble, basically? And she was going, whatever you want to do with football, it's your career, this, that, the other. She was brilliant. And Lennie was like that as well. And it came to the deadline day, and Preston and Burnley come in for me, and Lennie was fantastic. And he goes, look, speak to both clubs, you know, both big clubs, this, that, the other. He said, if it's true about what you want to do football wise, he said you should go to Preston. He goes, it's a club that's going that way up. They were second at the time in the league. You know what I mean? Burnley were at the bottom of that same division. I'll be honest, I was disappointed at first because they were both still in the same division as Luton. So I was like, I still haven't got my move to the Championship or whatever. But Lennie was brilliant with me. I remember on the day I was up in Preston, and I was ringing him, and I was really unsure about which club. When I told him how it had gone and all this, he goes, Graham, he goes, you're going for football reasons. He goes, I know it's not about money for you, this, that, you. He goes, take it or leave it. He goes, but for what you want from your game, go to Preston. And that had a big sway on me, because I actually later found out that, and I hope I don't get Lennie into trouble for this, but I think Burnley had offered Luton a bigger transfer fee, a bigger fee. Not loads, but a little bit more. But I think he knew my reasons were genuine. I'd try. We'd been really honest with each other right from the start and everything. And I'd never forget that. You know what I mean, from Lennie, to be fair. And you know, I've seen him 10 days ago. You know, at Stevenage, we played Stevenage, and he was there, and he was great. And I was talking to him about this podcast and that, and he was buzzing about it. Like, you know, I said, you know, I'd listened to Steve Davis and talking really well about you, and he was, of course they're going to talk well of me, Grez. You know, we had a great time and all this stuff. So it was brilliant. Like, honestly, if you could get Lennie on this.
I know. I mean, I think he's one definitely. I'm going to try and get on it, because, I mean, like you just said, I mean, a genuine guy who, I mean, especially coming towards the end of myself and Steve's career, like, we used to be Mitchell. We used to be the Monday crew where it would come in and you go, you just go on the bikes today. You go on the bikes today. You don't need to train today, and you need to look after you. It's great man management skills.
Yeah, I think that was one of his biggest things, the man management side of it, and that stood out for me then, when he knew that I was actually leaving, but he still had that care for his player. Yeah. Still, you know, it weren't well. You're no good to me now, so I don't care where you sign. Yeah.
Like you said, he could have left you out. He could have left you out. Deliberately left you out.
He could have left me out. He could have done anything. He goes, right, I'm not playing you right back anymore. Are you playing here or are you playing there? But he never did. He was always. I think it was both ways. You know what I mean? I think he never seen me changing my approach to training or game or anything. You know, even that tackle that he put me out, I still went for the ball. I had a certain amount of months left on my contract. I was still competing and tackling and all this stuff. So, but I'd say, couple of managers after that for me had massive impacts on my career. David Moyes first, because I went to Preston and he turned me from a player that was, I think, letting bad habits seep into my training, into my way of life, and showed me what it was to be a real professional. I mean, every single day, without every single minute of every single day. And he was really, really tough on me. I mean, like, you know, he said he was going to be tough on me and make me a better player. But I thought it'd take about a month and then he'd leave me alone and get on. You know what I mean? But it was every single day for 3 years, basically. And he never let me off from anything. And was really, you know, at times I resented him for it. And why did you sign me? You obviously think I'm crap. You know what I mean? But it's like, no, because I think you should be here, not here. And it was always that. And I remember the day the penny dropped, it was 2 years in. And I'd had an argument with him again, because we had these analysis meetings on every Monday morning. And honestly, if you were like 2 yards out of line, he'd notice it, or this, and he was really strict with the defenders and all this stuff. And I was just like, here we go, it's me again. You know, I was like, yeah, here we go, get Greza, all this, like talking like an idiot, you know what I mean? And he pulled me outside after, and he showed me this newspaper cutting, and it was like he'd been pushing in the papers in Scotland for me to be called up for the Scotland squad. And I was like, whoa, oh, right. He goes, that's how much I think you could, or how good I think you can be. And I was like, right. And I swear, Marv, the penny just went plop in my head. I went, I am going to listen to this guy, whatever he says, and just go like that and get on with it, because he's just made me a better player, better professional, and everything. And a month after he left, even the day he left to go to manage Everton. He pulled me to the side. He said, I've got a meeting with the Scotland manager next week. And he goes, I'm still going to push your case. I'm still going to push for you. And he wasn't even a manager. You know, then he'd left to go. And a month later, I made my debut for Scotland. And that was 30 at the time when he left. And basically, I had David Moyes sitting on my shoulder, talking in this ear for the next 10 years of my career. Do you know what I mean? Every time that if I did something that I felt wasn't professional, or I didn't train right, I could hear him in my head. Do you know what I mean? Saying, that's not good. You're better than that. This, that, the other. And I swear, he turned my career upside down. Without a doubt, I wouldn't have played in the Premier League. I wouldn't have played till I was 40. I wouldn't have played for Scotland if I hadn't signed for David Moyes when I left Luton, without a shadow of a doubt. And he was brilliant for me. And then when I left Preston to go to Burnley, the man who sort of reinvented, like I got changed. I went into midfield with Steve Cottrell, then went back to fullback, but then with Owen Cole, he came in and he was, and he changed me from fullback to centre midfield. We started the season, we got beat. The first 2 games of the season, we got beat 3-1 and 4-0 on the first 2 games of the season. Bottom of the league, championship, 1 goal, no points. And then we got Crystal Palace away the next game. And I'm walking from the hotel to the coach. I'm about to get on the coach, and Coyley gets off the bus. He goes, Grez, can I have a word? And I was like, I'm not playing. You know what I mean? I was ready to go all off on one of my rants while I should be playing on the list. I was like, and he goes, I'm going to play you in front of that 4 today. I went, right, brilliant. And I got on the bus before he could say anything else. And that was it. And I never played another game at fullback for the next 5 years. He didn't honestly, and even in changing, Steve Davies come up to me. I goes, you know, I've never played this, Steve. He goes, look, just use your intelligence, protect the back 4 and get on the ball. That's it. That's all the gaffer wants you to do. I went, right, okay then. And that was it. And we drew 0-0 against 9 men, by the way, at Crystal Palace. And we're high-fiving each other because we've got a clean sheet. Against 9 men. And we were like, yeah, get in. 1 point on the board, clean sheet. And all this stuff. But then we drew the next one 0-0. And then we won. And we ended up just going on an amazing run. And we got to the Carling Cup semi-finals. Beat Arsenal, Chelsea, Fulham as a championship club on the way. And then we got promoted at the end of the season. And it was like, and at that moment in my career, it just reinvented me and gave me a new lease of life. And he was the complete opposite of David Moyes, the success I had under David Moyes and then Billy Davies at Preston was very aggressive, structured, you know, professional and all this lot. And that's, but Owen Cole was all about fun, positivity. Never said, honestly, I can't remember him saying anything negative to me in 2 years. It was like, Graham, you're the best player I've ever seen. And I knew he was bullshitting me. It was like, but he made me feel great. And he did that with all the players. And it was like, and I couldn't believe how positive he could be all the time. And I was like, I feel great. And I remember him, you know, that Monday club you're talking about there, like Lennie and that. I remember him coming up to me before a cup game. It was early in the season. We had Preston North End on Saturday in the league, and he, obviously it was at Deepdale, and he I can't remember who we played on the Tuesday. It was a lower league team in the cup on Tuesday. He said, he pulled me on the day before. He goes, Gres, look, big game Saturday, Preston. He goes, I need you available. He goes, what do you think about me resting you tomorrow in the cup game? And I just said to him, I said, Gaff, look, I can't physically say I don't want to play a game of football. I goes, I can't do it. I'll never do it. I can't actually say it because it could be my last ever game. I might never play another game again. And then so I just said, if you make a decision, you make a decision, but I will never ever say I don't want to train or don't want to play a game. That's it. You went, right, okay, and walked off. And I played absolutely every game that season. I played 66 games that season. At 37. Wow. I played 61 for Burnley and 5 for Scotland. And I only came off in 2 of them, with 15 minutes to go. So honestly,
that's unreal.
But he didn't care about my age. He didn't care about my age. He just cared. He loves playing. I love that enthusiasm. I want to be honestly, it was and what it gave me was, as a future manager and coach, actually, there's more than one way of being successful. It doesn't have to just be that way. It could be this way as well. You know what I mean? And it gave me, I felt a good balance going into coaching and managing, that I saw the positives that David Moyes had, the way he managed and how it brought out the, but also how the positives from Aaron Cole, that was completely different, but how you could still be successful that way as well. And for me, those 2 managers were brilliant for me. But if I was going to pick one manager, it would be David Moyes, because I wouldn't have had the career I felt I was lucky enough to go on to have if I hadn't made that decision to sign for him in the first place. So for me, the manager for that team would be David Moyes.
That's great. I mean, again, we're about finished now, and we normally finish with, when we spoke about it yesterday, we laughed about it yesterday, like your most memorable Luton game and why. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be the same one of what Steve's is, but I mean, if it is, it is.
Yeah, I think it was the first year it was tough because we obviously got relegated, from the Championship, so it was more them, and I didn't feel part of it. But then after that, I did, but he was right. Listening to your last podcast with Steve and I was thinking, when I started thinking about games, when he started talking, I was thinking, like, what would be my game? And I was thinking, well, it would be at Luton. It'd be a night game, because it was a great atmosphere, wasn't it? And I was thinking, and then I just remember you scoring that goal. Like, it's the Ipswich game. And then I was listening to Steve, and I was going, he's going to pick the same game. Steve's going to pick the same game. And it was, honestly, it was brilliant, because I thought we had a brilliant sort of environment and team spirit, and it was great. And we had a couple of real good results against some bigger teams, bigger clubs at a higher level than us. And I thought that, listen, Marv, your goals weren't plenty, were they? You know what I mean?
No, they weren't.
I think, hold on. So it's like...
It's true.
But I just, when those games where it's to-ing and throwing, and you go, oh, we've lost it, oh, we've won it, oh, we've lost it again. Yeah. And you know what? When you spoke in the last one about Lennie on the bench, I've seen that footage. It's like, oh no, and Lennie was like disaster or catastrophe or success, wasn't it? And it was like we had it, then we threw it away, and then I just remember that feeling. I still get goosebumps now. That feeling when you come back and you score, and I've still got a picture. I tried to find it last night to show, but I've seen you running off like that, and I'm right behind you trying to catch you, and that shows you how slow I was, Andrew. Like, I couldn't catch that. So it was just, it was one of those where it was a brilliant night, brilliant atmosphere. Won it, lost it, won it. The what it meant to the team. I'm sure that was the game where the chairman said he'd buy us a music centre for the
I think it was actually
game or something like that. But I'm speaking now with Marv, but out of all the players that I would love to have scored that goal, it was Marv. That because he didn't score that often, but he was a one club man. Loved Luton, and all the players loved him, all his teammates loved him, all the staff, Cherry upstairs, everyone loved you, Marv, you know what I mean? And every player loved him, every player's missus loved him, every player's kid loved him. It was like, it was like, and those moments, I think, when you score a goal like that, and it's so special now, I think they're great when they belong to someone who's special like that. And that's how I felt from that I'm glad it was Marv that scored that goal. It was one round, and it was such a brilliant game to be involved in, and seeing Marv's like beaming grin when he's going, and everyone just loved it. It was brilliant, wasn't it?
I have to agree with you about the to in and throw in. We've done it. No, we've lost it. And again, it being a night game at Kenilworth Road, those night games was something special. If it was a 2-in or throw-in, and on a Saturday afternoon, I just don't think it would have been the same. Do you know what I mean? That night game and the atmosphere of the supporters and the fans, it just meant like it was a bit more special. It's just weird. I don't know. I can't explain it.
Yeah, no, it is. I think there's definitely an atmospheric advantage to that, and I think it captures. I still think it would have been a special game. It would have been, let's be honest. But it was almost like every aspect you could add to like a special game. It had. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it had. And a last-minute winner from a club legend and such a popular guy. It was brilliant. And I mean, you probably remember. I can't remember. I was saying to you yesterday, I can't remember loads of stuff your managers spoke before and after games and that. And I can imagine Lennie being after that, like, you know what I mean? Just I bet one minute. No, I can't remember. These guys are brilliant. And I bet he's slagging himself, going, "These guys are idiots." And then 1 minute later, these guys, I love them. And
but I mean, the thing is that typical Lennie again. It's like I think there was one of the interviews. He's talking afterwards, and he's saying, "What do you mean? You thought he was out?" And then obviously he goes, "We were out, and then we were in," and then he goes, "We're out," and then Marvin pops up as he does every 10 years or so for his one goal. He goes, then he goes, "Marv can take a goal. He can take a goal. He can take a goal, Marv can." He was giving me a little bit stick, but at the same time giving me a compliment. Because to be fair, whenever I was in front of goal, I was relatively, for a defender, calm. I mean, I don't know why. There was always something where I didn't panic, I didn't rush or anything. And it was like, Richard Wright, England or whatever, ex-goalkeeper. He just locked it, and it was just like coming to my head, and I just thought, just put it on the goal, sort of thing. It felt like it was slow motion to me when it happened. If that makes sense.
You know what? I think thinking about it, it did seem like it was slow motion. But I think that what you're saying there, I think that was you though, Marv, wasn't it? I think you did that when you were defending as well. You didn't ever look flustered or snatch at clearances and stuff like that. I think that's just in your nature and your personality. So, but you probably took it from all over the pitch. You know what I mean, sort of thing. I think and it come out in that. So it was, it just it was a memorable great game. A memorable game. Even if it had ended 3-3 or something like that, but it needed some punchline, and that was a brilliant punchline. It was a great feeling.
Well, fantastic, excellent. I mean, that's it. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, Grez. I mean, we've enjoyed it. Andrew's done his best to stay awake. It must be. What time is it there now?
1:30.
Oh no, jeez, 1:30.
No, sorry, mate. I know I can go once I get talking about football and old times, mate. I can.
Good. It's all good. Well, what we'll say is thank you so much, Graham Alexander, for your best 11. Fantastic to speak to you, and a fantastic team, a mixture of Preston, Burnley, and kind of Luton player in as well. So, and Scotland as well. So, thank you very much for your time.
Cheers. Excellent. Guys. Brilliant.